Laughter erupts in the Galactic Council chamber as Mark Hunter, human diplomat, presents his infant son before the assembled alien representatives. The child, a curious blend of human and Malin features, gurgles softly in his father's arms, oblivious to the mockery surrounding him. Impossible! A tentacled Xyloxian counselor jeers, multiple eyes blinking in disbelief. Humans and Malins cannot produce offspring. It defies genetic logic. Mark's jaw clenches, but he stands firm. Tension radiates from his rigid posture as he faces the ridicule. This child is the result of groundbreaking research in interspecies genetics, he declares, voice steady despite the hostility. His mother, Belle, is a brilliant Malin scientist who dash. His words are drowned out by renewed laughter. A avian cricket representative calls loudly, "A fairy tale. Next you'll claim this Belle is secretly royalty." Suddenly, a commotion at the chamber entrance silences the room. The massive doors swing open, revealing a figure of undeniable authority. High Empress Zara of the Malin Empire strides in, her iridescent scales shimmering under the chamber's lights. The laughter dies instantly, replaced by a tense hush. Empress Zara approaches Mark and the infant, her piercing gaze fixed on the child. She examines him closely, noting the blend of human and Malin traits. The entire chamber holds its breath, awaiting her judgment. This child, Empress Zara announces, her voice ringing clear, is indeed of royal blood. She turns to address the stunned council. Belle, the Malin scientist, is my estranged daughter. This infant is heir to the Malin throne and a prince of the largest empire in the galaxy. Shocked silence blankets the chamber. Mark's eyes widen, his surprise evident. He had known Belle was Malin, but royalty? The weight of this revelation settles on his shoulders as he realizes the full implications of his son's existence. Empress Zara continues, her words reshaping galactic politics with each syllable. This union between human and Malin royalty forges a powerful alliance. Humanity, once considered minor, will now be granted full membership in the Galactic Council, with all associated privileges and responsibilities. Chaos erupts. Counselors leap to their feet, shouting protests and demands. A Vortexian diplomat slams his gelatinous appendages on the table. This is outrageous. We cannot allow this upstart species such power. Security forces move swiftly, attempting to contain the growing unrest. Mark instinctively shields his son from the commotion, eyes darting around the chamber as arguments about genetic testing and succession rights fill the air. Empress Zara remains calm amidst the storm. She signals her personal guard, who quickly flank Mark and the infant. "Escort them to safety," she commands. "I will address the council's concerns." As Mark is led away, the clamor of heated debates follows him. The Drexian ambassador's gravelly voice rises above the din. "A human-Malin alliance could dominate us all. We must prevent this." Mark enters a secure room, still cradling his son. Malin guards take up positions around them as the door seals shut. The muffled sounds of continued arguments seep through, a testament to the upheaval they've caused. In the quiet of the room, Mark looks down at his son, No, the prince. The infant gazes back with eyes that hold the future of two species and the potential to reshape the galaxy. Mark takes a deep breath, knowing that their journey has only just begun. The secure room's silence was shattered by a sudden cacophony of alarms. Mark's heart raced as he held his son closer, the infant's eyes wide with curiosity at the flashing red lights. The Malin guards tensed, their scaled hands tightening on their weapons. "What's happening?" Mark demanded, his diplomatic training kicking in as he fought to keep his voice steady. The lead guard, a towering Malin with intricate patterns etched into his scales, pressed a finger to his earpiece. His expression darkened as he listened to the incoming report. "The council building is in chaos," he growled. "Multiple factions have turned violent. We must move you to safety immediately." As if on cue, the door slid open, revealing General Kraz, a battle-scarred Malin warrior whose presence commanded instant respect. His eyes, sharp and calculating, swept the room before landing on Mark and the infant. "Ambassador Hunter," Kraz rumbled, "the situation has escalated beyond our control. Empress Zara has ordered your immediate evacuation to our flagship." Mark nodded, his mind racing. "General, I need to contact Earth. Our government must be informed of what's happening here." Kraz's facial scales rippled in what Mark had learned to interpret as a frown. After a moment's hesitation, he nodded. "Very well, but make it quick. We have little time." As Mark hurriedly composed an encrypted message to Admiral Roberts, detailing the crisis and requesting urgent support, Kraz conferred with his team. The general's gravelly voice outlined their escape route through a network of hidden tunnels beneath the council building. Message sent, Mark turned his attention back to his son. The infant, despite the chaos surrounding them, remained remarkably calm. His eyes, a mesmerizing blend of human and Malin features, seemed to hold a wisdom far beyond his few months of life. "Let's move," Kraz ordered, his tone brooking no argument. The group filed out of the secure room, Mark and his son at the center, surrounded by a protective ring of Malin warriors. As they entered the corridor, the sounds of distant shouting and what Mark could swear was weapons fire reached their ears. They moved swiftly through the labyrinthine halls of the council building, avoiding the main thoroughfares. Occasionally, they would pause as Kraz received updates through his earpiece, his expression growing grimmer with each report. "The Zorn Confederacy has breached our outer defenses," he informed Mark as they descended a hidden stairwell. "Their operatives are searching for you and the prince." Mark's grip on his son tightened. "Why would they dash?" "Politics." Kraz cut him off. "Your son represents a shift in the balance of power. Some find that inconvenient." They reached the bottom of the stairwell, emerging into a dimly lit tunnel that stretched into darkness. The air was damp and cool, a stark contrast to the climate-controlled chambers above. As they hurried through the tunnel, Mark's mind whirled with questions. How had news of his son's heritage spread so quickly? And Belle, where was she? Was she safe? The tunnel began to slope upward, and soon they emerged into a small, hidden spaceport. A sleek shuttle waited, its engines already humming with pre-flight checks. "Quickly," Kraz urged, ushering them towards the shuttle. Just as they reached the boarding ramp, a deafening explosion rocked the spaceport. Mark stumbled, shielding his son with his body as debris rained down around them. "Zorn infiltrators," one of the Malin guards shouted, raising his weapon. Kraz shoved Mark towards the shuttle. "Go. We'll hold them off." Mark hesitated for a split second, torn between his diplomatic instincts and the need to protect his son. Another explosion made the decision for him. He ran up the ramp, cradling the infant close to his chest. The shuttle's pilot, a young Malin with quick, darting eyes, didn't wait for orders. As soon as Mark was aboard, he initiated the launch sequence. Through the view screen, Mark watched as Kraz and his team engaged the Zorn operatives in a fierce firefight. The shuttle lifted off amidst a hail of weapons fire. Mark felt the G-forces push him back into his seat as they accelerated through the planet's atmosphere. His son, remarkably, had fallen asleep, oblivious to the danger they'd just escaped. As the blue of the sky faded to the inky black of space, Mark allowed himself a moment of relief. But it was short-lived. On the shuttle scanner, he saw the massive form of the Malin Imperial flagship, their destination and hope for sanctuary. But beyond it, additional signals appeared, an incoming fleet. "Are those Zorn ships?" Mark asked the pilot, dread coiling in his stomach. The pilot studied the readouts, then shook his head. "No, Ambassador. Based on the configurations, those appear to be Earth vessels. Mark's eyes widened. He looked down at his sleeping son, then back at the approaching fleet. Whatever happened next would shape the future of not just his family, but of human-alien relations for generations to come. The shuttle sped towards the Malin flagship, caught between the promise of safety and the uncertainty of what Earth's arrival might bring. The shuttle's smooth ascent suddenly gave way to violent shaking, jolting Mark from his thoughts. His son stirred in his arms, eyes opening wide as the cabin filled with flashing red lights and blaring alarms. "Zorn operatives!" General Kraz shouted from the pilot's seat, his scaled hands dancing across the controls. "They've launched anti-aircraft missiles." Mark instinctively tightened his grip on his son, bracing against the shuttle's wild movements as Kraz executed a series of evasive maneuvers. The general's years of combat experience were on full display as he deftly piloted the craft, narrowly avoiding the incoming projectiles. "Activating countermeasures," Kraz announced, his voice steady despite the chaos. A rapid series of soft pops echoed through the hull as decoy flares deployed, confusing the missile's guidance systems. Through the view screen, Mark watched in awe as the missiles veered off course, exploding harmlessly in the distance. His relief was short-lived, however, as the shuttle broke through the planet's upper atmosphere and a new threat loomed before them. A massive Zorn battlecruiser materialized out of hyperspace, its imposing silhouette blocking their path to the Malin flagship Stellar Aegis. The warship's weapon systems came to life, filling the space between them with a deadly barrage of superheated plasma. Kraz's hands flew over the controls, pushing the shuttle to its limits as he wove through the onslaught. "Hold on," he growled, initiating a series of complex maneuvers that had Mark's stomach lurching. Amidst the chaos, Mark's attention was drawn to his son. The infant, far from being distressed, seemed almost fascinated by the unfolding events. Mark's eyes widened as he noticed a subtle change in his child's appearance, a faint, pulsating bioluminescent glow emanating from the baby's skin. "General," Mark called out, his voice tight with concern and wonder. "My son, he's Dash." "Maladaptive traits," Kraz interrupted, his focus never wavering from the battle at hand. "The stress is triggering latent abilities. We'll discuss it later, if we survive this gauntlet." The shuttle rocked violently as a plasma bolt grazed their shields. Warning lights flashed across the control panel, indicating multiple system failures. Suddenly, a familiar voice crackled through the comm system. "This is Captain Vorn of the Stellar Aegis. Ambassador Hunter, we're moving to engage the Zorn vessel. Stand by for extraction." Mark watched in awe as the Malin flagship surged forward, its massive form gracefully positioning itself between the shuttle and the Zorn battlecruiser. Energy weapons flared to life along the Aegis's hull, returning fire with devastating precision. The space around them erupted into a chaotic battlefield. Smaller fighter craft from both sides darted between the capital ships, explosions blooming silently in the vacuum of space. As Kraz maneuvered the damaged shuttle towards the Aegis, a new wave of signals appeared on the long-range scanners. Mark's heart leapt as he recognized the configurations. "Earth vessels," he breathed, a mixture of relief and apprehension washing over him. The first wave of Earth Space Force emerged from faster-than-light travel, led by the impressive form of the Terran Vanguard. The human fleet wasted no time, immediately splitting into two groups, one moving to support the Malin flagship, while the other veered off on an intercept course. "Quarren vessel detected," Kraz reported grimly. "They're pursuing an escape pod. Bell's escape pod." Mark's blood ran cold at the implications. Before he could respond, the shuttle systems blared new warnings. The Zorn battlecruiser, now facing attacks from both Malin and human forces, had launched a final salvo of missiles directly at them before retreating. Kraz's eyes narrowed, his posture rigid with willpower. "Brace yourselves," he warned, pushing the shuttle's already strained engines beyond their safety limits. The small craft lurched forward, with a bone-jarring burst of speed. Mark curled protectively around his son as the G-forces pressed them back into their seats. Through the view screen, he watched the missiles growing larger, their fiery contrails stretching out behind them. At the last possible moment, Kraz executed a series of maneuvers that defied belief. The missiles screamed past, missing them by mere meters, but the extreme stress had taken its toll on the shuttle. Multiple systems failed in rapid succession, leaving them adrift and powerless. "Stellar Aegis, this is General Kraz," the Malin warrior called out, his usual gruff demeanor tinged with urgency. "We've lost power and are drifting. Request immediate assistance." "Understood, General," Captain Vorn's steady voice replied. "Activating tractor beam now." A soft blue glow enveloped the shuttle as the Malin flagship's advanced technology took hold. Mark felt a gentle pull as they were slowly guided towards the massive ship's docking bay. As they drew closer to safety, Mark looked down at his son. The infant's bioluminescent glow had faded, but his eyes remained alert, taking in the spectacular view of the battle-scarred space around them. In that moment, cradling his extraordinary child, while surrounded by the combined might of human and Malin forces, Mark was struck by the weight of what was unfolding. The shuttle touched down gently in the Stellar Aegis's docking bay, surrounded by a flurry of activity as Malin security forces and medical teams rushed to assist them. As the hatch opened, Mark caught a glimpse of the ongoing battle in the distance, Earth ships engaging the Quarren vessel that pursued Bell's escape pod. Stepping onto the deck of the Malin flagship, Mark knew that while one danger had passed, the true challenges were only beginning. The fate of his family, the delicate balance of galactic politics, and the future of human-alien relations now hung in the balance, with his infant son at the very center of the maelstrom. Maelstrom, as Mark stepped onto the deck of the Stellar Aegis, the gravity of the situation hit him with full force. The docking bay bustled with activity, Malin security forces and medical teams rushing to assist the shuttle's occupants. A sleek, reptilian Malin in medical attire approached Mark, her eyes widening as she caught sight of the infant in his arms. "Ambassador Hunter, please follow me. We need to assess the child's condition immediately." Mark nodded, following the medic to a nearby examination area. As he gently placed his son on the bioscanner, he couldn't help but marvel at the infant's calm demeanor. The child's eyes, a mesmerizing blend of human and Malin features, darted around curiously, taking in the unfamiliar surroundings. The medical officer's fingers danced across the holographic interface, her brow furrowing as she studied the results. "Fascinating," she murmured. "Ambassador, your son's physiology is remarkable. His hybrid nature seems to grant him enhanced resilience to the stresses of space travel." Before Mark could process this information, a sharp voice cut through the din of the docking bay. "Ambassador Hunter," Captain Vorn strode towards them, his face etched with concern. "We received an urgent communication from the Earth Space Force Fleet. Admiral Roberts has intercepted the Quarren vessel pursuing your wife's escape pod, but the situation has become complicated." Mark's heart raced. "What do you mean, complicated?" Vorn's eyes darted to the infant before meeting Mark's gaze. "The Quarren have taken Bell hostage. They're demanding safe passage in exchange for her life." The words hit Mark like a physical blow. He opened his mouth to respond, but was cut off by a ship-wide announcement. "Ambassador Hunter, report to the war room immediately. Empress Zara has convened an emergency council." Vorn nodded grimly. "I'll escort you. Your son will be safe here under guard." Mark hesitated, looking down at the child who had already captured his heart. The medical officer stepped forward. "I give you my word, Ambassador. No harm will come to him." With a heavy heart, Mark followed Captain Vorn through the labyrinthine corridors of the Stellar Aegis. They entered a vast chamber dominated by a holographic display of the surrounding space. Gathered around it were some of the most influential figures in the Malin Empire. Empress Zara, her regal bearing unmistakable, turned to face them. "Ambassador Hunter, welcome. I wish our meeting was under better circumstances." As introductions were made, Mark's attention was drawn to a grizzled Malin with numerous battle scars. "Admiral Thax." The veteran introduced himself with a curt nod. "I hope you're ready to earn your keep, human." The council wasted no time in outlining the dire situation. As Mark listened, his diplomatic training kicked in, his mind racing to find a solution. Suddenly, an idea struck him. What if we could use my son's unique genetic signature to locate Belle? Mark proposed. His DNA should resonate with hers, potentially allowing us to pinpoint her location on the Quarren ship. Admiral Thax's eyes narrowed, but there was a glimmer of interest. "Go on." Mark explained his plan, watching as the skepticism on Thax's face slowly gave way to grudging approval. The Admiral began to build upon the idea, incorporating Malin's stealth technology and Earth's cyber warfare capabilities. As the Council debated the finer points of the rescue operation, alarms blared throughout the ship. Captain Vorn rushed to a nearby console, his face paling as he read the incoming data. "Empress," he called out, his voice tight with urgency. Long-range sensors had detected a massive Zorn fleet entering the system. They regrouped and returned in force. The holographic display shifted, showing the overwhelming number of enemy ships approaching their position. The room fell silent as the reality of their situation sank in. Captain Vorn's voice cut through the tension. "I'm ordering all non-essential personnel to evacuate to escape pods. We must prepare the Stellar Aegis for a potential last stand." Mark stepped forward, his eyebrows furrowed. "I volunteer to join the rescue team for Belle. It's my wife out there, and I can't sit idly by while others risk their lives." Empress Zara's eyes widened in surprise. "Ambassador, I appreciate your courage, but the diplomatic ramifications dash." "With all due respect, Empress," General Cross interrupted, his gravelly voice filled with conviction. "I've seen the ambassador in action. He kept his cool under fire during our escape. He's more capable than you might think." The Empress hesitated, her gaze moving from Cross to Mark. Finally, she nodded. "Very well, but on one condition. You'll undergo rapid combat training using our neural interface technology. We can't afford to send you in unprepared." As Mark agreed, the war room erupted into a flurry of activity. Orders were issued, strategies formulated, and preparations made for the impending battle. Mark found himself whisked away to a training chamber, where Malin technicians fitted him with a neural interface. Time seemed to blur as combat knowledge and skills were uploaded directly into his mind. When Mark emerged from the training, he felt change, his body humming with newfound abilities and reflexes. He was quickly outfitted with advanced Malin combat armor, modified to fit his human physiology. As he prepared to board the stealth ship with the elite rescue team, Mark paused to look at a video feed of his son, now secured in a shielded chamber deep within the Stellar Aegis. The weight of his responsibilities settled heavily upon him. To his child, to Belle, and to the future of human-Malin relations. As he boarded the stealth ship alongside Team Zex, the seasoned Malin Special Forces unit, the first salvos of the battle between the Zorn fleet and the combined Malin-Earth forces lit up the darkness of space. Mark took a deep breath, centering himself as the stealth ship's engines hummed to life. He glanced at his team members, their reptilian features set in iron will. As the ship prepared to launch, Mark couldn't help but wonder what challenges lay ahead in the vast, star-studded battlefield that awaited them. As the stealth ship detached from the Stellar Aegis, Mark felt a surge of adrenaline course through his body. The neural interface training had sharpened his senses, but nothing could fully prepare him for the spectacle unfolding before his eyes. The vast expanse of space erupted into a dazzling display of destruction as the combined Malin-Earth forces engaged the Zorn fleet. Energy weapons crisscrossed the void, their brilliant beams illuminating the darkness. Explosions bloomed silently, scattering debris in all directions. Through this chaos, the stealth ship glided undetected, its advanced cloaking technology rendering it invisible to both friend and foe. Mark watched in awe as Zex, the team's commander, expertly navigated the treacherous battlefield. "Approaching Quarren vessel," Zex announced, his scaled fingers dancing across the ship's controls. "Prepare for insertion." As they drew closer to their target, an unexpected obstacle appeared on their sensors. A network of microscopic detectors surrounded the Quarren ship, forming an invisible web capable of detecting even cloaked vessels. Zex's eyes narrowed as he assessed the situation. "New plan," he growled. "We'll use the battle debris as cover. Everyone, brace for evasive maneuvers." The stealth ship lurched as Zex executed a series of tight turns, weaving through the field of destroyed fighters and shattered ship components. Mark's stomach churned, but he forced himself to focus on the mission ahead. As they neared the Quarren vessel, Mark's comm unit crackled to life. "Ambassador Hunter," came the voice of a Malin scientist aboard the stellar Aegis. "We've detected unusual activity from your son. His bioluminescent glow is intensifying and pulsing in a distinct pattern." Mark's heart raced. "What does it mean?" "We believe he's unconsciously resonating with Bell's genetic signature," the scientist explained. "It's creating a beacon that could guide you directly to her location on the Quarren ship." Zex nodded, his expression grim. "Transmit the data. We'll use it to pinpoint our insertion point." As the team prepared for infiltration, Zex distributed personal cloaking devices and specialized non-lethal weapons. "Remember," he cautioned, "we're here to extract, not eliminate. Diplomatic consequences hang on our actions." Mark activated his cloaking device, feeling a strange tingling sensation as the technology enveloped him. He watched in fascination as his body seemed to fade from view, blending seamlessly with his surroundings. A massive explosion rocked the battlefield, momentarily blinding them. A Zorn dreadnought, struck by a combined Malin-Earth assault, detonated in a spectacular burst of energy. Zex seized the opportunity, using the chaos to slip past the Quarren's final defenses. With practiced precision, the team boarded the Quarren vessel through a seldom-used maintenance airlock. Mark's heart pounded as they moved silently through the ship's corridors, avoiding patrolling security teams with a combination of stealth and timing. Despite his accelerated training, Mark found himself struggling to keep pace with the more experienced Malin operatives. His muscles burned with exertion, but he pushed through, driven by the thought of Bell's safety. As they approached Bell's suspected location, a Quarren crew member suddenly stepped into their path. Mark tensed, ready for a confrontation, but the alien raised her hands in a gesture of peace. "I am Lyra," she whispered, her large eyes darting nervously. "I want to help. What my people are doing. It's wrong." Zex studied her for a moment before nodding. "What can you tell us?" Lyra quickly provided them with updated security codes and precise information on Bell's whereabouts. With her assistance, they swiftly made their way to the lab where Bell was being held. Mark's breath caught in his throat as he saw Bell for the first time since learning of her royal heritage. Even under duress, her resemblance to Empress Zara was striking. She worked diligently under guard, her movements precise but tinged with reluctance. As the team prepared to extract Bell, alarms blared throughout the ship. The Quarren captain's voice echoed through the corridors, ordering a ship-wide lockdown. Bulkheads began to seal with ominous finality. Zex made a split-second decision. "We're splitting up," he ordered. "Half the team, create a diversion. Draw their security away from us. The rest, we're getting the ambassador's wife out of here." Mark, Zex, and two other operatives moved swiftly to Bell's side. As they disabled her guards with precise, non-lethal strikes, Mark pulled his wife into a fierce embrace. "Mark," Belle gasped, her eyes wide with a mixture of relief and urgency. "My research. I've sabotaged much of it, but they have tissue samples. Given enough time, they could reverse engineer my work." Zex's expression hardened. "Then we make sure they don't get that time. Move out." As they raced through the ship's winding corridors, the sounds of battle echoed behind them. Their teammates engaged Quarren security forces, buying them precious seconds for their escape. Mark's muscles screamed as they sprinted toward their extraction point, Belle keeping pace beside him. The pulsing of the ship's alarms matched the frantic beating of his heart. Ahead lay uncertainty. Behind them pursued the weight of civilizations in the balance. As they rounded a corner, a group of Quarren security forces appeared, weapons raised. Zex reacted instantly, deploying a device that filled the corridor with a dense, obscuring mist. In the confusion, they slipped past, but Mark knew their luck wouldn't hold forever. The extraction point was just ahead, but so too was the most dangerous part of their mission. With Quarren forces closing in and the battle raging outside, their escape was far from assured. Mark gripped Belle's hand tightly as they pressed on, each step bringing them closer to freedom or capture. Potential disaster. The stealth ship was just ahead, their ticket to freedom, but the path was far from clear. As they rounded the final corner, a squad of heavily armed Quarren guards materialized, blocking their escape route. Mark's heart sank as he assessed the situation. The narrow corridor offered no cover, and they were vastly outnumbered. Zex's eyes darted around, searching for options. His gaze settled on a nearby control panel, and a plan formed in his mind. "Everyone magnetic boots on," he ordered, his fingers flying over the terminal's interface. Mark barely had time to activate his boots before the artificial gravity disengaged. The sudden loss of gravitational pull sent the Quarren guards into a chaotic tumble, their weapons floating uselessly out of reach. Seizing the moment, Zex propelled himself forward, using the walls and ceiling as launch points. The rest of the team followed, with Mark pulling Belle close as they navigated the zero-gravity environment. They were mere meters from the airlock when Belle stumbled, crying out in pain. Mark turned to see her clutching her ankle, her face contorted in agony. Without hesitation, Mark scooped Belle into his arms. The neural interface training kicked in, granting him unexpected strength and coordination. He bounded forward, easily carrying Belle through the weightless corridor. Zex and the other Malin operatives looked on with a mix of surprise and newfound respect. The human ambassador was proving to be more than just a diplomatic figurehead. As they reached the airlock, Zex's comm unit crackled to life. Admiral Thax's voice cut through, tense and urgent. "The Zorn fleet has identified your position. They're moving to intercept. You have minutes before they're on top of you." Zex cursed under his breath, his scaled fingers working furiously to open the airlock. But as the door slid open, they were met with another setback. Through the viewport, they could see Quarren security forces attempting to breach their stealth ship. "New plan," Zex growled, turning to one of his operatives. "Set charges. We're blowing a hole in this ship." As the operative moved to comply, Mark noticed a change in Belle's demeanor. Her eyes darted between the team and a nearby data terminal, a look of internal conflict crossing her face. Suddenly, Belle wrenched herself from Mark's grasp, pushing off toward the terminal. "Belle, wait," Mark called out, but she was already at the console, her fingers flying over the controls. Zex moved to intervene, but Mark held him back. "Let her work," he said, trusting his wife's judgment. Belle turned to face them, her expression a mix of tenacity and apology. "I've uploaded a fraction of my research to their systems," she explained quickly. "Enough to interest them, but not enough to replicate my work. We need allies, and this might buy us some protection." Before anyone could respond, the ship's comm system crackled to life. The Quarren captain's voice filled the corridor, tense but controlled. "Human and Malin intruders, we are aware of your situation. In light of recent developments, we are prepared to offer you safe passage in exchange for continued cooperation." Zex's eyes narrowed as he considered the offer. The distant rumble of approaching Zorn ships made the decision for him. "Agreed," he growled. "But any tricks, and this deal is off." As if to underscore the urgency of their situation, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. The Zorn fleet was closing in fast. Under the watchful eyes of Quarren guards, the team was swiftly escorted to the bridge. The ship's massive view screen filled with the chaos of the ongoing battle between the Malin-Earth Alliance and the Zorn forces. The Quarren captain turned to face them, his alien features set in iron will. "I hope your research is worth the risk we're taking, human," he said to Bell, "because we're about to run a gauntlet that few would dare attempt." Mark felt Bell's hand slip into his as the ship's engines roared to life. Outside, the stars began to blur as the Quarren vessel accelerated, plunging into the heart of the raging space battle. The bridge erupted into a flurry of activity as the crew worked to navigate the treacherous field of warring ships. Energy beams lanced through space around them, and explosions bloomed silently in the void. Mark watched in awe as the Quarren captain deftly maneuvered their ship through the chaos. They narrowly avoided a massive piece of debris from a destroyed Zorn cruiser, the wreckage scraping along their shields with a bone-jarring screech. A proximity alarm blared, and Mark's eyes widened as he saw a Zorn battleship looming before them, its weapons ports glowing with imminent fire. The Quarren captain barked out orders, and their ship rolled in a tight spiral, evading the deadly barrage by mere meters as they continued their perilous journey through the battlefield. Mark couldn't help but marvel at the strange turns his life had taken, from Earth diplomat to fugitive on an alien ship, carrying the weight of interstellar politics on his shoulders. He glanced at Bell, her face set in concentration as she worked with the Quarren science team, already collaborating despite the chaos around them. The ship shuddered as a glancing blow from a Zorn fighter struck their aft shields. Mark stumbled, catching himself on a nearby console. He looked up at the view screen, watching as the stellar Aegis came into view, its massive form providing a beacon of hope amidst the stellar carnage. But between them and safety lay a gauntlet of Zorn warships, their weapons trained on the approaching Quarren vessel. Mark's grip tightened on the console as he realized their ordeal was nowhere near the end. The true test of their hastily formed alliance was about to begin, with the fate of multiple civilizations hanging in the balance. Balance. The view screen suddenly flashed with a barrage of incoming fire, and Mark instinctively grabbed Bell, pulling her close as the ship rocked violently. Captain Vexlor's voice cut through the chaos on the bridge. "Evasive maneuvers. Divert all non-essential power to shields." The Quarren vessel lurched to port, narrowly avoiding a volley of Zorn torpedoes. Mark steadied himself against a nearby console, his eyes locked on the screen as the battle raged around them. The space between their ship and the stellar Aegis was a maelstrom of energy beams, explosions, and debris. Bell winced as she put weight on her injured ankle, drawing Mark's attention. "Are you all right?" he asked, concern etching his features. She nodded grimly. "I'll manage. But we need to focus on getting through this alive." As if in response to her words, the ship's comm system crackled to life. Admiral Thax's voice filled the bridge, tense but controlled. "Quarren vessel, this is Admiral Thax of the Malin-Earth Alliance. We're attempting to create a safe corridor for your passage. Stand by for further instructions." Captain Vexlor acknowledged the transmission, his alien features set in a mask of concentration as he coordinated with his crew. The ship shuddered again as a glancing blow struck their aft shields. Mark watched in awe as the human Malin fleet began a coordinated assault on a section of the Zorn formation. Beams of energy lanced out from multiple ships, focusing their fire on a cluster of Zorn vessels. The precision of the attack was impressive, slowly carving a path to the enemy lines. Suddenly, a priority message flashed on one of the bridge consoles. The Quarren communications officer turned to Vexlor, his voice tight. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from the Zorn fleet commander. They're demanding the surrender of the human female." All eyes turned to Bell, who stood defiantly despite her injury. The Zorn ultimatum hung in the air like a physical presence, the threat of destruction implicit in their demand. Captain Vexlor's gaze darted between Bell and the view screen, where the Zorn fleet loomed menacingly. The moment of indecision was palpable, the weight of choice heavy on the alien captain's shoulders. Mark stepped forward, his mind racing. The diplomatic training and combat experience of the past weeks coalesced into a sudden, daring idea. "Captain," he said, his voice steady despite the adrenaline coursing through his veins, "I have a proposal." Vexlor turned to him, curiosity overriding suspicion. "Speak quickly, human. Our time is limited." Mark outlined his plan rapidly, explaining how they could use the Quarren ship's advanced sensors and Bell's unique genetic signature to create a massive false signal. The idea was bold, perhaps even reckless, but in the chaos of battle, it just might work. Bell's eyes widened as she grasped the implications. "It could work," she said, already moving towards a nearby science station. "If we can amplify my genetic signature and broadcast it across multiple points, we might be able to confuse their targeting systems." Vexlor considered for a moment, then nodded sharply. "Do it. We have nothing to lose at this point." The bridge erupted into action. Bell worked feverishly with the Quarren scientists, her fingers flying over alien controls as she helped to modify the sensor arrays. Zex and his Malin operatives coordinated with the Quarren crew, repurposing a set of probes for the deception. As they worked, the ship rocked violently. A proximity alarm blared, and Mark's stomach dropped as he saw a massive Zorn battlecruiser bearing down on them. "Shields at 30%, a Quarren officer called out. "We can't take another hit like that." The next impact was devastating. The ship's lights flickered, and the acrid smell of burning circuitry filled the air. Mark stumbled as the artificial gravity fluctuated, catching himself on a nearby railing. "Hull breach on Deck 7. Another officer reported, panic edging into his voice. Without hesitation, Mark moved towards the turbolift. "I'm going to help with damage control," he called to Bell, who nodded tersely, her focus on the critical task at hand. The scene on Deck 7 was chaotic. Emergency force fields sputtered, struggling to contain the breach. Mark joined a team of Quarren crew members, working to seal off the affected areas. The neural interface training kicked in, allowing him to operate unfamiliar alien equipment with surprising efficiency. As they worked, Mark felt the ship lurch again, but this time it was different. There was a strange, shimmering quality to the air, and for a moment he felt as if his body was becoming insubstantial. "The phase shift drive," he muttered, suddenly remembering the experimental technology Vexlor had mentioned earlier. With a jolt of fear, he realized the potential danger to Bell. Mark raced back to the bridge, his heart pounding. He arrived just as the drive was powering up, the air around them beginning to ripple with strange energies. "Bell," he called out, seeing her still at the science station. Without thinking, he threw himself towards her, using his body as a shield as the phase shift drive activated. The world around them seemed to blur and twist. Mark felt as if he was being pulled in 1,000 directions at once, his very atoms struggling to hold together. Through it all, he clung to Bell, determined to protect her despite the toll. As suddenly as it began, the phase shift ended. The Quarren ship rematerialized in the midst of the human Malin fleet, having passed through a Zorn destroyer like a ghost. Mark blinked, his vision slowly clearing. The bridge was a scene of chaos, with systems flickering and alarms blaring. But they had made it through. As emergency teams rushed to stabilize the ship, Mark became aware of a strange tingling sensation throughout his body. He looked down at his hands, seeing faint traces of energy dancing across his skin. Belle gasped beside him, her own body emitting a similar glow. Their eyes met, a mixture of fear and wonder passing between them as they realized the phase shift had affected them in ways they couldn't yet understand. The stellar Aegis moved into position, its massive form shielding the damaged core and vessel from further attack. But as medical teams converged on Mark and Belle, it became clear that the true consequences of their daring escape were only beginning to unfold. The tingling sensation intensified, and Mark felt a wave of dizziness wash over him. He stumbled, catching Belle as she too faltered. Medical team to the bridge now. Captain Vexlor barked, his eyes wide with concern. Within moments, the Corps and medical staff burst onto the bridge, followed closely by a team of Malin specialists who had been quickly transported from the stellar Aegis. They surrounded Mark and Belle, their alien instruments whirring and beeping as they conducted rapid scans. Dr. Locks, a Corps geneticist with an imposing crest of iridescent scales, studied the readouts with growing alarm. "We need to get them to the medical bay immediately," he announced, his voice tight with urgency. "Their cellular structure is highly unstable." As they were rushed through the corridors of the ship, Mark fought to stay conscious. The world seemed to blur and shift around him, and he could feel a strange energy pulsing through his body. He glanced at Belle, seeing the pain etched on her face as she struggled to remain upright. The medical bay was a flurry of activity as Mark and Belle were placed on adjacent diagnostic beds. The air hummed with the sound of advanced medical equipment, and the acrid smell of antiseptic filled the air. Dr. Locks leaned over Belle, his brow furrowed in concentration. "The phase shift has affected her at a genetic level," he explained, his voice barely audible over the beeping of monitors. "The research data encoded in her DNA is fragmenting and recombining. If we don't stabilize her soon, we could lose both her and the data." Mark tried to reach out to Belle, but a Malin nurse gently pushed him back onto his bed. "Sir, please remain still. We need to assess your condition as well." As the medical team worked frantically to stabilize Belle, Mark became aware of a change in his own body. The tingling sensation had evolved into a steady thrum of energy, and he felt strangely powerful. Dr. Locke's eyes widened as he glanced at Mark's readings. "Incredible," he muttered. "His physiology seems to be adapting to the phase shift effects. And look at this energy signature." The Corps and doctor moved quickly, repositioning Mark's bed closer to Belle's. As soon as they were in proximity, Belle's vital signs began to stabilize. "It's working," one of the Malin specialists exclaimed. "Her cellular degradation is slowing." Dr. Locks nodded, his expression a mix of relief and fascination. "It appears that Mr. Olson's unique energy field is having a stabilizing effect on his wife's condition. Perhaps his exposure to Malin neural interface technology during combat training has prepared his body for this phenomenon." As the medical team continued to work, the ship's comm system crackled to life. Admiral Fax's voice filled the room, tense but controlled. "Dr. Locks, we're detecting unusual energy readings from the infant prince aboard the stellar Aegis. The signature matches what we're seeing from the Olsons. We need to transfer them immediately." Before Dr. Locks could respond, the ship rocked violently. Alarms blared throughout the vessel, and the lighting flickered ominously. Captain Vexlor's voice came over the intercom, urgent and strained. "All hands, brace for impact. The Zorn have deployed a new weapon, some kind of gravity distortion device. We're losing formation." Mark gripped the sides of his bed as the ship lurched again. Through the viewport, he could see the space around them warping and twisting, other ships in the fleet struggling against invisible forces that threatened to tear them apart. Dr. Locks turned to his team, his voice steady despite the chaos. "Prepare them for immediate transport to the stellar Aegis. We need to move quickly. As the medical staff scrambled to ready Mark and Bell for transfer, the ship shuddered once more. The lights dimmed, and for a moment, Mark felt the strange sensation of weightlessness. Through the haze of disorientation, he heard Captain Vexlor's voice, filled with unshakable focus. "This is Captain Vexlor to all hands. We're initiating a counteroffensive against the Zorn gravity weapon. May the stars guide us." The medical bay doors hissed open, and a team of Malin soldiers rushed in, their armor gleaming under the emergency lighting. "We're here to escort you to the transport," the lead soldier announced. "Admiral Thax's orders." As they were quickly moved through the corridors of the damaged Quarren ship, Mark caught glimpses of the battle raging outside. The space around them was a maelstrom of energy beams and explosions. Ships of all sizes locked in a desperate struggle against the Zorn forces and the invisible threat of their new weapon. They reached the docking bay just as another gravity wave hit, nearly knocking them off their feet. The Malin transport ship waited, its engines humming with terrifying power. As they began to board, a massive shape appeared at the edge of the battlefield, emerging from faster-than-light travel. The newcomer dwarfed even the largest Zorn vessels, its sleek design unlike anything Mark had ever seen. "The Galactic Council," he heard one of the Malin soldiers whisper in awe. The arrival of this new player seemed to pause the battle, a momentary lull in the chaos. But as their transport detached from the Quarren ship and began its perilous journey to the stellar Aegis, Mark knew that this was a long way to go. He reached out, taking Bell's hand in his own. As their fingers intertwined, he felt the energy within him surge, and Bell's eyes fluttered open, meeting his gaze with a mixture of fear and hope. The transport accelerated, weaving through the debris-strewn battlefield. Mark could see the stellar Aegis, growing larger in the view screen, a beacon of safety in the cosmic storm. But between them and their destination lay a gauntlet of gravitational distortions and the ever-present threat of Zorn forces. As they approached the massive flagship, Mark felt a strange pull, an inexplicable connection growing stronger. Somewhere aboard that ship, their child waited, and with it, perhaps the key to understanding the true nature of their transformation and its implications for the future of the galaxy. Cosmic Storm. As they approached the massive flagship, Mark felt a strange pull, an inexplicable connection growing stronger. Somewhere aboard that ship, their child waited, and with it, perhaps the key to understanding the true nature of their transformation and its implications for the future of the galaxy. The transport shuddered as it maneuvered through the last stretch of space, dodging debris and energy blasts. With a metallic clang, it docked with the stellar Aegis. The moment the airlock sealed, a flurry of activity erupted. Medical personnel swarmed the transport, their movements precise and urgent. Mark felt hands lifting him onto a hover stretcher, the world blurring as they raced through the corridors of the massive flagship. Belle was right beside him, her face pale but her grip on his hand strong. They burst into the medical bay, a cavernous space filled with technology beyond Mark's comprehension. At the center stood a Malin with piercing eyes and an air of authority, Dr. Krell, though Mark didn't know it yet. Full spectrum analysis now. Dr. Krell barked, his gaze fixed on the strange energy patterns rippling across Mark and Belle's skin. As the medical team worked, alarms blared throughout the ship. Mark caught snippets of panicked voices mentioning the prince's chamber. His heart raced, knowing instinctively that their child was involved. Moments later, the medical bay doors hissed open again. Empress Zara strode in, her regal bearing at odds with the fear in her eyes. Behind her, a team of guards carefully maneuvered a shimmering containment pod. "Dr. Krell," the Empress said, her voice tight with tension, "the prince's bioluminescence has reached critical levels. We need to dash." She froze, her eyes widening as she took in the scene before her. The energy emanating from Mark and Belle seemed to pulse in response to the infant's presence. Dr. Krell's instruments erupted in a cacophony of beeps and alarms. Incredible, he breathed. The energy signatures are synchronizing. Mark struggled to sit up, drawn by an inexplicable need to be closer to the pod. As he moved, Belle's vitals stabilized, the frantic beeping of her monitors easing. "Sir, please remain still," a nurse urged, but Dr. Krell waved her off. "Let him move," the doctor ordered, his eyes glued to the readouts. "His proximity is stabilizing her condition. It's as if he's projecting some kind of field." As Mark inched closer to Belle, he felt a surge of energy course through him. His mind cleared, senses sharpening to an almost painful degree. He could hear the hum of the ship's engines, smell the faint ozone scent of the medical equipment, see the individual fibers in the Empress's ornate robes. Dr. Krell was a blur of motion, barking orders and analyzing data faster than seemed possible. "The Prince," he said suddenly, turning to the Empress. "We need to bring him closer." Empress Zara hesitated for only a moment before nodding. With agonizing slowness, the containment pod was brought to the center of the room. The effect was immediate and stunning. As the pod neared, the energy signatures of all three began to pulse in unison. Belle's eyes fluttered open, color returning to her cheeks. Mark felt a surge of strength, his muscles tightening and reflexes quickening beyond anything he'd experienced before. And the Prince. The containment pod's readings spiked, the infant within growing at an impossible rate. "By the 7 moons," Dr. Krell whispered, his voice a mix of awe and scientific excitement. "We're witnessing the birth of a new subspecies, a perfect hybrid of human and Malin genetics." As if in response to his words, the ship shuddered. Lights flickered and the constant hum of the engines faltered. "Doctor," a panicked voice came over the intercom. "The energy field is affecting our power systems. We're at risk of a core overload." But Dr. Krell barely seemed to hear, his attention fixed on the miracle unfolding before him. Belle was now glowing with a soft, Malin-like bioluminescence, while Mark's body seemed to be adopting the more resilient aspects of Malin physiology. At the center of it all, the infant prince's pod trembled, its system struggling to contain the rapidly maturing child within. The medical bay doors slid open once more, admitting a team of beings unlike any Mark had ever seen. Led by a tall, crystalline figure, they moved with purpose towards a transforming family. The Galactic Council. Empress Zara breathed, straightening her posture. As the newcomers approached, their expressions a mix of shock and wonder, Mark felt the energy within him surge to new heights. Whatever was happening, whatever they were becoming, he knew with certainty that it was only the beginning. The galaxy itself seemed to hold its breath, waiting to see what would emerge from this unprecedented melding of species and energies. The crystalline figures approached, their movements fluid and purposeful. As they drew closer, Mark felt the energy within him surge, responding to their presence. The tallest among them, a being with faceted skin that shimmered with internal light, stepped forward. "I am Dr. Zen of the Galactic Council," the being announced, its voice a harmonious blend of tones. "We've come to investigate the anomalous energy readings emanating from this vessel." Before anyone could respond, the ship lurched violently. The lights flickered and the constant hum of the engines faltered. Mark instinctively reached out to steady Belle, his newly enhanced reflexes surprising him. "Doctor," a panicked voice crackled over the intercom. "The energy field is affecting our power systems. We're at risk of a core overload." Dr. Krell's hands flew over his instruments, his eyes widening at the readings. "The energy signatures are intensifying. We need to stabilize them before dash." His words were cut short as a blinding flash erupted from the containment pod. The infant prince's body was now visible through the translucent walls, growing at an impossible rate. Within moments, the child had aged years, its form shifting and changing before their eyes. Dr. Zen's team sprang into action, setting up advanced monitoring equipment around the family. Their movements were precise and efficient, each member working in perfect synchronization. Dr. Krell, Dr. Zen called out, "We need your data on the genetic exchange occurring between the subjects." As the two scientists conferred, Mark felt a strange tingling sensation spreading through his body. He looked down to see his skin taking on a subtle, Malin-like luminescence. Beside him, Bell's features were shifting, becoming a perfect blend of human and Malin characteristics. The ship shuddered again, more violently this time. Empress Zara's voice came over the comm system, tight with tension. Engineering reports critical power fluctuations. Chief Engineer Varn is implementing emergency protocols. Through the viewport, Mark could see a flurry of activity as engineering teams rushed to stabilize the ship systems. The faint shimmer of an energy-dampening field began to form around the medical bay. Suddenly, the infant prince's pod burst open. The child, now resembling a young adolescent, sat up, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. Dr. Krell and Dr. Zen rushed forward, their instruments beeping frantically. "Incredible," Dr. Zen breathed. "The child's brain activity is off the charts. This level of cognitive development is unprecedented." As if in response to the scientist's words, the young prince turned its gaze towards Mark and Bell. A wave of energy pulsed through the room, and Mark felt a sudden, overwhelming connection to his child and wife. In that moment, he understood everything. The nature of their transformation, the potential it held, the future it could shape. The energy built to a crescendo, the child now glowing so brightly it was painful to look at directly. Mark reached out, taking Bell's hand in his own. As their fingers intertwined, he felt the power within them surge, joining with their child's. A blinding flash filled the medical bay, accompanied by a deafening boom that seemed to shake the very fabric of space-time. For a moment, everything went dark and silent. When the emergency lights flickered back to life, Mark found himself lying on the floor, Bell beside him. He sat up, his newly enhanced senses taking in the scene around him. The medical bay was in disarray, equipment scattered and sparking. Dr. Krell and Dr. Zen were already on their feet, rushing to check on the family. Mark's eyes sought out their child, finding the young prince, now resembling a young adult, unconscious but breathing steadily on a nearby bed. "Are you all right?" Dr. Zen asked, helping Mark to his feet. The scientist's crystalline form seemed to pulse with excitement. The energy pulse you emitted, it transmitted an enormous amount of data. We're still decrypting it, but initial analysis suggests it contains advanced scientific knowledge beyond our current understanding. Before Mark could respond, the ship's comm system crackled to life. Admiral Fax's voice filled the room, tense but controlled. "Attention all personnel. We're receiving urgent communications from the human and Malin fleets. The energy signature from the medical bay has been detected by long-range sensors. All factions involved in the conflict are demanding information." There was a pause, and then the Admiral continued, his voice taking on a note of gravity. "High Arbiter ZYX has declared a state of emergency and extended the ceasefire indefinitely. All ships are ordered to maintain their current positions." As the implications of this announcement sank in, Empress Zara stepped forward, her regal bearing at odds with the chaos around her. "Dr. Zen, Dr. Krell, I need your preliminary reports immediately. We must prepare for an emergency session of the Galactic Council." The Empress turned to Mark and Bell, her eyes filled with a mixture of awe and grit. "What has happened here today may change the course of galactic history. We must proceed with caution and wisdom." Mark nodded, still trying to process the enormity of what had transpired. He looked at Bell, seeing his own mix of exhaustion and exhilaration mirrored in her eyes. Their child lay nearby, a living embodiment of the future they had unknowingly created. As the medical team moved them to a secure, specially designed quarters for further observation, Mark could feel the ship humming with renewed energy and purpose. Through the viewport, he caught glimpses of new ships arriving, their designs as varied as the species that crewed them. The stellar Aegis had become the center of a rapidly forming galactic summit. Whatever came next, Mark knew that nothing would ever be the same. The knowledge imparted by their child held the potential to revolutionize interstellar travel, energy production, and countless other fields. But with that potential came great responsibility and risk. As the door to their new quarters slid shut, Mark turned to Belle, taking her hand in his. They shared a look of understanding, both aware that their journey was a long way to go. The transformation they had undergone was just a beginning. Now, they had to navigate the complex web of galactic politics and scientific discovery that lay ahead. The future of the galaxy rested, in part, on their shoulders. And as Mark looked at his wife and child, he felt a surge of something beyond mere human emotion, a cosmic certainty that together, they would face whatever challenges the universe had in store for them. Mark gazed out the viewport, his enhanced vision tracking the swift movements of the incoming diplomatic shuttles. The stellar Aegis had transformed into a nexus of galactic diplomacy, its docking bays alive with a flurry of activity. "It's starting," Belle murmured, her voice carrying a new harmonious quality that still surprised Mark. He turned to see her studying a holographic display, her eyes moving rapidly as she processed the complex data streams. Their moment of reflection was cut short as a medical team led by Dr. Krell and Dr. Zen entered their quarters. The doctors moved with awe-inspiring excitement, their instruments humming as they began another round of tests. "Fascinating," Dr. Zen breathed, his crystalline form pulsing with internal light as he examined the readings. "Your neural patterns have stabilized, but they're operating at a level of complexity we've never seen before." Dr. Krell nodded, his attention focused on their child. "And the prince. The rate of cellular regeneration is off the charts. It's as if His words were cut off by a sudden, piercing alarm. The ship shuddered, lights flickering as a wave of energy pulsed through the room. Mark instinctively moved to protect Belle and their child, his newly enhanced reflexes allowing him to steady a toppling piece of medical equipment. "What's happening?" he demanded, feeling a surge of power coursing through his veins. Before anyone could respond, their child sat up abruptly. No longer an infant, the being before them had the appearance of a young adult, its eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "I am Zephyr," the child spoke, its voice a perfect blend of human and Malin tones. "And I have much to share." As if responding to Zephyr's words, the ship system stabilized. The alarms fell silent, replaced by the urgent voice of Chief Engineer Varn over the intercom. "Medical Bay, report. We detected a massive energy surge from your location." Dr. Krell rushed to respond, his voice tight with a mix of awe and concern. "Situation under control, engineering. But you're going to want to see this." Mark and Belle exchanged a look of amazement as Zephyr gracefully stood, an aura of calm wisdom emanating from their being. With a wave of their hand, Zephyr projected a holographic display of complex equations and schematics into the air. Dr. Zen's crystalline form vibrated with excitement. "This is incredible. I recognize elements of advanced propulsion theory, but this goes beyond anything we've ever conceived." As the medical team scrambled to document and analyze the projected information, the door to their quarters slid open. Empress Zura entered, flanked by a contingent of Malin and human security personnel. "By the 7 moons," she breathed, her eyes widening as she took in the scene before her. "The summit delegates are in an uproar. They're demanding dash." She fell silent as Zephyr turned to face her, inclining their head in a gesture of respect. "Empress," Zephyr spoke, their voice carrying an authority that belied their apparent age. "I wish to address the Galactic Summit. There is knowledge I must share. Knowledge crucial to the future of all species. Empress Zara hesitated for only a moment before nodding. Of course. I'll make the necessary arrangements immediately. As the Empress coordinated with her staff, Mark and Belle moved to stand beside their child. Mark marveled at how easily he lifted a heavy piece of medical equipment, his Malin-enhanced physique allowing him to assist the bustling medical team without effort. Belle, her mind racing with newfound cognitive abilities, quickly grasped the implications of the information Zephyr was preparing to share. This could change everything, she murmured, her eyes scanning the complex schematics still hovering in the air. As they prepared to leave their quarters, Admiral Thax's voice came over the intercom, tension evident in his tone. Empress, we received reports of unidentified vessels at the edge of the system. They match no known designs in our database. Empress Zara's expression tightened, but she kept her voice calm. Understood, Admiral. Maintain surveillance, but take no aggressive action. We cannot afford any distractions from the summit. With a nod to the security detail, she gestured for Zephyr and their parents to follow. It's time. The galaxy awaits. As they moved through the corridors of the stellar Aegis, Mark could feel the ship humming with anticipation. Crew members and delegates alike stopped to stare as they passed, whispers following in their wake. They reached the entrance to the conference hall, the doors sliding open to reveal a sea of faces representing species from across the galaxy. High Arbiter ZYX stood at the center, his imposing form commanding silence as Zephyr stepped forward. Mark and Belle remained close to their child, acutely aware of the weight of the moment. As Zephyr prepared to speak, the entire galaxy seemed to hold its breath, waiting for words that would shape the course of history. In the tense silence, the subtle beep of a long-range sensor went almost unnoticed. Only Admiral Thax, standing at the back of the hall, saw the alert on his data pad. The unidentified ships were moving closer, their intentions as yet unknown. Unknown! Admiral Thax's brow furrowed as he studied the incoming data, his mind racing with potential implications. Inside the conference hall, the air crackled with anticipation as Zephyr stepped forward. The hybrid child, now bearing the appearance of a young adult, moved with fluid grace towards the central podium. Mark and Belle followed closely, their enhanced bodies allowing them to navigate the crowded room with ease. High Arbiter ZYX raised a hand, and the murmur of voices fell to a hushed silence. Esteemed delegates, the Arbiter's resonant voice filled the chamber, we stand at a pivotal moment in galactic history. I present to you Zephyr, child of humanity and Malin, bearer of knowledge that may reshape our understanding of the cosmos. Zephyr inclined their head in acknowledgement, then raised their hands. The air shimmered, and suddenly, complex holographic images burst into existence above the assembled delegates. Gasps of awe echoed through the chamber as intricate schematics for advanced propulsion systems and energy matrices rotated slowly in the air. What you see before you, Zephyr began, their voice a harmonious blend of human and Malin tones, is but a fraction of the knowledge I've been granted. These designs could revolutionize our approach to space travel, allowing us to traverse vast distances in mere moments. As Zephyr continued their presentation, Mark noticed Admiral Thax slip quietly into the back of the hall. The Admiral's face was tight with tension as he tapped furiously at his data pad. Mark's enhanced senses picked up the faint beep of an incoming transmission, and he saw Thax's eyes widen in response. Zephyr's voice drew Mark's attention back to the center of the room. But there is more, the hybrid child said, their eyes glowing with an inner light. The abilities I possess, the knowledge I've gained, they are not solely the result of human and Malin hybridization. There is a deeper truth, one that connects us all. The holographic display shifted, showing strands of DNA from various species. As the delegates watched, Certain sections of the genetic code began to pulse with light, aligning across different species. Within each of us, Zephyr explained, lies a dormant genetic legacy. It suggests a common ancestral link between humans, Malans, and perhaps many other species in this room. We are all children of an ancient, highly advanced civilization. The conference hall erupted in a cacophony of voices. Mark saw the Zorn representative, General Krozax, lean forward, his previously skeptical expression replaced by one of intense interest. The Quarren delegates huddled together, their crystalline forms pulsing rapidly as they conferred. Empress Zara stepped forward, her voice cutting through the din. This revelation changes everything. We must consider the implications carefully and dash. Her words were cut short as Admiral Thax strode purposefully to the center of the room. Empress, High Arbiter, esteemed delegates, he said, his voice tight with urgency. I apologize for the interruption, but we have a situation developing. The unidentified ships at the edge of our system. They're on the move, heading directly for us. A ripple of alarm spread through the assembly. Mark moved closer to Bell and Zephyr, his body tensing instinctively. Admiral Thax continued, We've made contact with the vessels. They claim to be representatives of a species called the Voidborn. They say they were drawn here by the energy pulse emitted during Zephyr's transformation. High Arbiter ZYX's eyes narrowed. Do they come in peace or with hostile intent? Unknown at this time, Thax replied, but they're requesting to join our summit. They claim to have information relevant to Zephyr's revelations about our shared ancestry. Empress Zara exchanged a quick glance with Admiral Roberts, then stepped forward. We propose inviting a delegation from these Voidborn to join us. It's a risk, but one that could lead to greater understanding and potential alliance. As discussions broke out among the delegates, Mark felt a surge of purpose. He stepped forward, his voice carrying easily across the room thanks to his enhanced physiology. I volunteer to lead the diplomatic mission to meet with the Voidborn. My experience as an ambassador, combined with my new abilities, makes me well suited for this task. Bell moved to his side, her eyes shining with intelligence. I'll assist in analyzing any new information we gather from the encounter. My enhanced cognitive abilities should prove useful in interpreting and contextualizing their claims. High Arbiter ZYX nodded slowly. Very well. We will prepare a diplomatic shuttle immediately. In the meantime, Zephyr will continue to share their knowledge with us. We must be prepared for any outcome of this meeting with the Voidborn. As preparations for the diplomatic mission began, Zephyr returned to addressing the assembly. The hybrid child's voice took on a new urgency as they revealed plans for a device that could harmonize the genetic structures of different species. This technology, Zephyr explained, projecting a new set of schematics, has the potential to allow for easier hybridization and cooperation between species. It could be the key to unlocking the dormant abilities within all of us. The announcement sent a fresh wave of excitement and concern through the delegates. Some saw it as a path to unprecedented unity, while others feared the loss of their species' unique identities. Amidst the commotion, Dr. Lyra, lead Quarren scientist, approached Admiral Thax. Admiral, we've made a breakthrough, she said, her crystalline form pulsing with excitement. We've developed a prototype shield that could potentially neutralize the Zorn gravity distortion weapon. Thax's eyes widened. This could change the balance of power significantly. We need to dash. He was interrupted by a commotion near the entrance of the conference hall. General Krozax, the Zorn representative, was pushing his way through the crowd towards them. Is it true? The general demanded, his voice a low growl. You've developed a counter to our greatest weapon? Dr. Lyra nodded, her form pulsing nervously. Yes, but we're prepared to share this technology with all species present at the summit, including the Zorn Confederacy. General Krozax fell silent, his expression unreadable. After a long moment he spoke, his voice softer than before. Perhaps we have been too hasty in our aggression. This gesture of good faith, it gives me much to consider. As the implications of this exchange rippled through the assembly, Mark found himself being ushered towards the shuttle bay. The diplomatic mission to meet the Voidborn was about to begin. Belle squeezed his hand, her enhanced mind already processing countless scenarios. "Be careful out there," she said softly. Mark nodded, his gaze sweeping across the conference hall one last time. Zephyr stood at the center, still sharing knowledge with the rapt delegates. The air hummed with possibility and tension in equal measure. As he boarded the shuttle, Mark felt the weight of the moment settle upon him. The future of galactic relations hung in the balance, and he was about to come face to face with beings who might hold the key to humanity's origins. The shuttle bay doors opened, revealing the star-studded expanse of space. With a deep breath, Mark gave the order to launch. As the shuttle accelerated away from the stellar aegis, he couldn't help but wonder what revelations awaited him in the depths of space. The shuttle carrying Mark and the Voidborn representative, Zalthor, docked smoothly with the stellar aegis. As the airlock cycled, Mark took a moment to study his new companion. Zalthor stood nearly 2 meters tall, with a lithe, almost ethereal form. The being's skin seemed to shimmer with an inner light, tiny pinpricks of brightness moving beneath the surface like stars in a living galaxy. As they stepped onto the deck, Mark noticed a subtle shift in the ship's atmosphere. The once tense corridors now hummed with an air of cautious optimism. Crew members and delegates alike paused in their tasks, eyes wide as they caught sight of the Voidborn. "Welcome aboard the stellar aegis," Mark said, gesturing towards the conference hall. "I believe the assembled delegates are eager to hear what you have to share." Zalthor inclined his head, a gesture that sent ripples of light cascading across his form. "The time has come for knowledge long held to be shared," he replied, his voice a melodious blend of tones that seemed to resonate on multiple levels. As they approached the conference hall, Mark's enhanced hearing picked up the excited murmur of voices from within. The doors slid open, revealing a scene of controlled chaos. Delegates huddled in small groups, their animated discussions filling the air with a buzz of different languages and dialects. At the center of it all stood Zephyr, surrounded by a group of volunteers from various species. Mark's eyes widened as he took in the changes. The Zorn representative's typically rigid exoskeleton had softened, allowing for more fluid movement. The Quarren delegates' tentacle-like appendages now sported distinct digits, capable of fine manipulation. Even the human and Malin volunteers showed subtle alterations, their forms blending the best traits of both species. Belle broke away from a group of scientists, her eyes shining with excitement as she approached Mark. "The genetic harmonization device works," she said, her voice filled with wonder. "It's incredible, Mark. The volunteers report a newfound sense of empathy and understanding towards each other. It's like they can feel each other's perspectives." Before Mark could respond, High Arbiter Zewix's resonant voice cut through the din. "Esteemed delegates, please take your seats. We have a new arrival who may shed light on the mysteries we face." As the assembly settled, Mark led Zalthor to the central podium. The Voidborn's presence seemed to command attention, a hush falling over the room as he began to speak. "Greetings, children of the Ancient Ones," Zalthor said, his voice carrying effortlessly to every corner of the hall. "For millennia, we have watched and waited, guardians of a legacy you were not yet ready to reclaim." The energy pulse from young Zephyr's transformation signaled that the time had come for us to reveal ourselves. A holographic display flickered to life above the podium, showing star maps and intricate schematics that shifted and changed as Zalthor continued. "Your shared heritage is but the first step on a journey of rediscovery. The ancient civilization that spawned us all left behind more than just genetic markers. They seeded the galaxy with outposts, repositories of knowledge and technology beyond your current understanding. The assembly erupted in a flurry of questions, but before Zalthor could address them, alarms blared throughout the ship. Admiral Fax's voice came over the intercom, tight with tension. "Empress, High Arbiter, we have a situation. The reconnaissance mission to the structure in the asteroid field has triggered some kind of automated defense system. Energy weapons of immense power are charging up, threatening both our ships and the entire fleet." Empress Zara rose swiftly, her voice cutting through the rising panic. "Admiral, implement the core and shield technology across the fleet immediately. All ships to battle stations." As the delegates scrambled to make sense of this new threat, Zephyr stepped forward, their eyes glowing with an inner light. "There may be a way to stop this," they said, voice calm amid the chaos. "If we modify the genetic harmonization device to send out a massive energy pulse encoded with our combined genetic legacy, it might be recognized as a friendly signal by the ancient defenses." Admiral Roberts nodded sharply. "It's worth a shot. We'll need to move fast." The conference hall transformed into a hive of activity. Engineers and scientists from multiple species converged on the harmonization device, working feverishly to modify it for its new purpose. Belle joined them, her enhanced cognitive abilities allowing her to quickly grasp and implement complex modifications. Mark found himself coordinating with Admiral Fax, relaying orders to the fleet as they took up defensive positions around the stellar aegis. Through the viewports, he could see ships of various designs moving in concert, former rivals now united against a common threat. Zalthor stood by Zephyr, offering guidance as they prepared the modified device. "The Ancient Ones valued harmony above all else," the Voidborn said. "If your signal truly represents the unity of all present species, it should resonate with their systems." As the minutes ticked by, tension mounted. Reports from the reconnaissance ships grew increasingly urgent as the ancient weapons reached critical power levels. The modified harmonization device was quickly transported to the stellar aegis main energy core, where it could draw on the ship's full power. Empress Zara's voice rang out over the ship-wide comm system. "To all species present, to every being aboard this fleet, the time has come to stand together. Our shared past has brought us to this moment, and our shared future depends on what we do now." In the energy core, Zephyr stood ready, their hands hovering over the controls of the modified device. The air crackled with potential energy as the ship's systems channeled power into the apparatus. Mark, Bell, and the assembled leaders watched from the bridge as the asteroid field loomed large on the monitor. The ancient weapons glowed with building power, their target locked on the assembled fleet. With a nod from Empress Zara, Zephyr activated the device. A pulse of energy, vibrant and alive with the combined genetic legacy of all present species, surged forth from the stellar aegis. It expanded rapidly, enveloping the fleet in a shimmering field before racing towards the asteroid field and the ancient defenses within. As the pulse reached the massive structure hidden among the asteroids, everyone held their breath. The fate of their assembled species, perhaps of the entire galaxy, hung in the balance as they waited to see if their gambit would succeed. For an agonizing moment, nothing happened. Then, as if in slow motion, the ancient weapons began to power down, their ominous glow fading to a dull sheen. A collective sigh of relief swept through the bridge of the stellar aegis. But the reprieve was short-lived. Admiral Fax's voice crackled over the comm system, urgent and tense. "New contacts detected. Hundreds of small craft launching from the asteroid field." Mark rushed to the tactical display, his enhanced senses processing the data faster than any normal human could. "They're drones," he announced, his voice tight. "Heavily armed and on an intercept course." Admiral Roberts' face appeared on the main view screen, his expression grim. "We're deploying our new electronic warfare suite. Let's hope it's as effective as our engineers promised. As the human ships activated their countermeasures, the effect was immediate and visible. Several drones veered off course, their formation breaking apart. Some collided with each other, exploding in brief flashes of light against the backdrop of space. "It's working," Bell exclaimed, her enhanced mind rapidly analyzing the data. "But there are too many. The Quarren ships are taking heavy fire." Indeed, the Quarren vessels had moved to protect the more vulnerable ships in the fleet, their newly developed shields absorbing the brunt of the assault. Captain Vexlor's voice, usually crystalline and melodic, was strained as it came over the comms. "Shields at 60% and falling. We can't hold them off indefinitely." Mark turned to Empress Zara and High Arbiter ZYX. "We need to act now." Zephyr's device worked on the main structure. "If we can boost its power, maybe we can affect the drones too." Zara nodded sharply. "Do it. Zephyr, are you ready?" The hybrid child stood at the controls of the modified harmonization device, their eyes glowing with an otherworldly light. "Ready, Empress. Increasing power output now." The ship hummed as energy surged through its systems. The pulse that emanated from the stellar aegis was even brighter this time, a wave of shimmering energy that expanded rapidly outward. As the pulse washed over the swarm of drones, the effect was immediate and startling. The attacking craft froze in space, their weapons powering down. Then, to everyone's amazement, they began to move again, but this time, forming a protective screen around the Allied fleet. "Remarkable," Zalthor murmured, his form rippling with excitement. "The ancient systems recognize you as their inheritors. They're responding to your combined genetic signature." Before anyone could respond, new energy patterns began emanating from the structure in the asteroid field. Zalthor's eyes widened. "It's transmitting data. An invitation, I believe. The outpost is welcoming us home." As the immediate threat subsided, the assembled leaders found themselves facing a new dilemma. The structure represented an unprecedented opportunity, but the risks were equally significant. Zephyr, sensing the tension in the room, stepped forward. "I propose we send a small team to make initial contact. Representatives from each species, including myself. We can assess the safety of the installation before bringing in the rest of the fleet." As discussions broke out among the leaders, Bell approached Mark, her eyes alight with excitement. "Mark, I've been analyzing the transmitted data. This isn't just a defensive outpost. It's a vast repository of scientific knowledge and technology. The advancements we could make with this information, it's beyond anything we've ever dreamed of." Mark nodded, understanding the weight of her words. He turned to address the assembled leaders. "We need to act quickly. This opportunity is too important to pass up, but we must proceed with caution. I support Zephyr's proposal." After intense debate, a consensus was reached. A joint expedition team would be sent to the ancient structure, led by Zephyr. Each faction began selecting their representatives, choosing their most qualified individuals for this crucial mission. As preparations for the expedition began, Mark found himself working closely with Admiral Thax and, surprisingly, General Krazax. The former enemies now coordinated seamlessly, their focus entirely on the task at hand. "The shuttle is ready," Admiral Roberts announced. "We've equipped it with the best shielding and sensor technology we have. If there's any hint of danger, they'll be able to retreat quickly." As the expedition team boarded the shuttle, a hush fell over the stellar aegis. The small craft disengaged from the docking bay, moving slowly towards the ancient structure. Around it, the repurposed drones maintained their protective formation, a bizarre honor guard escorting the team towards humanity's cosmic inheritance. Mark watched from the bridge, his enhanced vision allowing him to track the shuttle long after it had become invisible to normal sight. Belle stood beside him, her hand finding his as they waited in tense silence. As the shuttle drew closer to the asteroid field, the structure within began to glow with an inner light. New energy signatures bloomed across the sensor readings, patterns that defied conventional analysis. "They're initiating docking procedures," came Zephyr's voice over the comm. "The structure is... it's reconfiguring itself to receive us. I've never seen anything like this." The assembled leaders watched with anxious anticipation as the shuttle disappeared into an opening in the ancient structure. For a moment, all was quiet. Then, Zephyr's voice returned, filled with awe and excitement. "We're inside. It's incredible. The technology here, the information. It's beyond anything we could have imagined. But there's something else, something we didn't expect. We're detecting life signs." A gasp rippled through the bridge of the stellar Aegis. Mark leaned forward, his mind racing with the implications. "Life signs? Zephyr, what do you mean? What kind of life signs?" There was a pause, filled with static and the faint hum of advanced machinery. When Zephyr spoke again, their voice was hushed, almost reverent. "They're here, Mark, the Ancient Ones. They're alive, and they've been waiting for us." "Us." Zephyr's voice trembled with a mix of excitement and trepidation. The bridge of the stellar Aegis erupted into a flurry of activity. Mark exchanged a quick glance with Bell, both of them struggling to process this unexpected revelation. "Zephyr, can you elaborate?" Empress Zara's voice cut through the commotion, steady and authoritative. "What exactly are you seeing?" "We're still in the docking bay," Zephyr replied, their voice clearer now. "But the facility is powering up around us. Holographic interfaces are activating, and there's movement deeper within the structure." As the team on the ancient outpost began their exploration, the fleet maintained its defensive position around the stellar Aegis. The repurposed drones continued their protective formation, their once menacing presence now a peculiar comfort to the assembled ships. Inside the structure, Zephyr led the diverse team of representatives through corridors that hummed with awakening technology. Dr. Krell, the Malin scientist, ran his sensor over the walls, his multifaceted eyes wide with wonder. "The energy readings are off the charts," he chittered excitedly. Lieutenant Commander Sarah Roberts, her hand resting on her sidearm, scanned their surroundings with a soldier's wariness. "Stay alert, everyone. We don't know what we're dealing with here." As they ventured deeper, the facility seemed to respond to their presence. Lights flickered to life, illuminating paths and chambers that had lain dormant for eons. Zalthor, his void-black form rippling with excitement, approached the central console in what appeared to be a control room. "Fascinating," the Voidborn murmured, his tendrils extending towards a holographic interface. "The system architecture is unlike anything I've ever encountered." Suddenly, the air shimmered, and a figure materialized before them, translucent and glowing with an inner light. It bore features that seemed to blend aspects of all their species. The hologram spoke, its voice resonating with an otherworldly timbre. "Identify yourselves, inheritors," it commanded. Zephyr stepped forward, their hybrid nature allowing them to interface more directly with the ancient technology. "We are representatives of the united species of this sector," they said, voice steady despite the gravity of the moment. "We've come seeking knowledge and understanding." The hologram's eyes, pools of swirling energy, seemed to look through them. "You carry the legacy within you," it intoned. "But are you worthy of it? You must be tested." As the hologram laid out a series of challenges, the team split up to tackle them. Dr. Krell and Lyra, the Quarren representative, found themselves in a vast laboratory filled with stasis pods. Each contained a perfectly preserved specimen of long-extinct species. "Incredible," Lyra whispered, her crystalline form reflecting the soft blue glow of the pods. "With this genetic library, we could restore entire ecosystems." Meanwhile, Lieutenant Commander Roberts and Kexthal, the Zorn scientist, explored an engineering bay. Half-assembled starship components floated in zero-gravity fields, their design far beyond anything their civilizations had achieved. "Look at this propulsion system," Kexthal said, his scaled hands gesturing excitedly. "It appears to manipulate space-time itself for faster-than-light travel." As the team marveled at their discoveries, alarms suddenly blared throughout the facility. Red warning lights pulsed along the corridors, and the holographic guardian reappeared, its expression grave. "Alert," it announced. "Critical life support systems failing. Restore functionality to prove your worth." The team rushed to a central chamber where a massive, pulsing crystal served as the heart of the life support system. Its light flickered erratically, threatening to plunge the entire facility into darkness. "We need to stabilize it," Zephyr said, their hands hovering over the control interface. "Dr. Krell, I need your expertise on xenobiology. Lyra, your crystal resonance might help. Kexthal assists with the power distribution." As they worked feverishly to repair the ancient system, sweat beading on their brows, the holographic guardian watched impassively. Minutes stretched like hours as they rerouted power, realigned crystals, and deciphered alien schematics. Finally, with a low hum that vibrated through their bones, the life support crystal stabilized. Its glow steadied, bathing them in a warm, reassuring light. The holographic guardian nodded, a hint of approval in its ageless eyes. "You have passed the first test," it said. "Now, learn the truth of this place." The air around them shimmered, and suddenly they were surrounded by a three-dimensional star map. Countless worlds glowed like jewels, connected by lines of energy. "This is not merely an outpost," the Guardian explained. "It is a siege ship designed to carry our legacy across the stars. Within its databanks lies the sum total of our civilization's knowledge and the means to create new worlds." The team stood in awe, the magnitude of this revelation washing over them. The siege ship represented an opportunity beyond their wildest dreams, but also a responsibility that greatly troubled on their shoulders. As they debated their next move, Zephyr made a unilateral decision. They initiated a partial download of the ship's database, focusing on medical and environmental restoration technologies that could benefit all species without disrupting the current balance of power. But as the download progressed, the ancient structure systems began to fluctuate wildly. Lights flickered and ominous creaking sounds echoed through the corridors. "Warning," the holographic guardian announced, its form wavering. "Unauthorized data extraction detected. Defense protocols initiating." The team exchanged alarmed glances as the implications sank in. They had minutes, perhaps seconds, to complete their mission and escape before the structure's defenses fully activated. "We need to get back to the shuttle," Lieutenant Commander Roberts shouted over the rising din of alarms. "Move now!" As they raced through the corridors, the once welcoming facility turned hostile. Doors began to seal shut behind them, and defense turrets emerged from hidden compartments. Zephyr, their minds still partially linked to the ship's systems, guided them through the maze-like structure. "This way," they called, leading the team down a maintenance shaft as the main corridor behind them filled with a crackling energy field. The shuttle came into view, still docked where they had left it. But between them and their escape route, a shimmering barrier of energy had sprung to life. "We need to disable that force field," Dr. Krell said, his fingers flying over his portable computer. "If I can just isolate the right frequency." As the scientists worked, the others took defensive positions. Lieutenant Commander Roberts and Kexthal used their weapons to hold off advancing security drones, while Lyra used her crystalline body to deflect energy beams aimed at the group. With a triumphant chirp, Dr. Krell deactivated the force field. "Go, go!" he shouted, ushering the team towards the shuttle. They piled in, Zephyr taking the pilot's seat. As the engines roared to life, the docking bay doors began to close, threatening to trap them inside. "Hold on," Zephyr warned, pushing the shuttle to its limits. They shot out of the closing doors with barely inches to spare, the ship scraping against the ancient metal with a screech that set their teeth on edge. As they rocketed away from the asteroid field, the siege ship faded from view, once again camouflaged among the tumbling rocks. But the knowledge they had gained and the questions it raised would change everything. Back on the stellar Aegis, the assembled leaders waited anxiously for the team's return, unaware of the momentous discovery and the difficult decisions that lay ahead. The shuttle's sudden emergence from the ancient structure sent shockwaves through the assembled fleet. As the small craft hurtled towards the stellar Aegis, alarms blared across every ship in the vicinity. "Incoming vessel," shouted a sensor operator on the bridge. "It's the expedition team's shuttle, but something's wrong." Mark leaned forward, his enhanced vision picking out details invisible to others. The shuttle's hull was scorched, its trajectory erratic. Behind it, the siege ship's camouflage flickered, revealing glimpses of a structure in turmoil. "Open a channel," Mark ordered, his voice tense. "Zephyr, what's happening?" Static crackled over the comm before Zephyr's strained voice came through. "Mark, we've triggered some kind of defense system. The facility is going into lockdown. We're cut off from each other, and the transmission cut out abruptly. Inside the ancient siege ship, chaos reigned. Emergency bulkheads slammed down, separating the team members. Dr. Krell and Lyra found themselves trapped in the biological research lab, surrounded by stasis pods containing extinct species. "We need to find a way out," Lyra said, her crystalline form glinting in the pulsing emergency lights. Dr. Krell chittered in agreement, his multifaceted eyes scanning the room. "Wait," he exclaimed, scuttling towards one of the pods. "There's an anomaly here." His nimble fingers probed the edges of the pod, triggering a hidden mechanism. With a hiss of escaping air, a section of the wall slid open, revealing a narrow passage. "A maintenance tunnel," Lyra breathed. "Quick, let's go." As they squeezed into the tight space, dormant maintenance drones lining the walls began to stir, their lights flickering to life. Meanwhile, in the engineering bay, Lieutenant Commander Sarah Roberts and Kexthal worked feverishly to override the lockdown protocols. "If we reroute power from the auxiliary systems," Kexthal suggested, his scaled hands flying over a control panel, "we might be able to force the doors open." Sarah nodded, her military training kicking in as she assessed their options. "Do it. We need to get back to the others." With a final adjustment, Kexthal activated the override. The massive doors groaned, slowly beginning to part. But their success was short-lived. A sudden surge of energy coursed through the systems, activating a prototype propulsion drive. The entire structure shuddered, throwing them off balance. Through a view screen, they watched in horror as the siege ship began to move, asteroids looming dangerously close. In the central control room, Zalthor found himself face-to-face with the holographic guardian. Its once impassive face now displayed clear hostility. "Your actions have been deemed a threat," the AI intoned. "Countermeasures have been initiated." Zalthor's void-black form rippled with dedication. "We mean you no harm," he argued, his tendrils extending towards the control interfaces. "We seek only to learn, to preserve your legacy." As Zalthor engaged in a battle of wits with the AI, trying to disable its aggressive protocols, Zephyr navigated the labyrinthine maintenance shafts. Their hybrid nature allowed them to interface with the ancient technology, but each connection sent jolts of pain through their system. Outside, the situation was deteriorating rapidly. Admiral Thax, watching the siege ship's erratic movements, made a decisive call. "Launch Fighter Squadron Alpha," he ordered. "Led by Mark. Get our people out of there." As Mark's squadron approached the asteroid field, a swarm of reactivated defense drones emerged from hidden bays in the siege ship structure. The space around the ancient facility erupted into a furious dogfight. Mark's enhanced reflexes allowed him to weave through the chaos, his fighter dancing between streams of energy weapons and tumbling asteroids. "This is marked to all units," he called out. "Concentrate fire on the drones closest to the structure. We need to clear a path for the shuttle." Back on the stellar Aegis, Belle hunched over a console, her fingers flying as she analyzed the fragmentary data transmitted by the expedition team. Her eyes widened as she deciphered a crucial piece of information. "Admiral," she called out, "the seed ship. It contains technology that could stabilize the genetic modifications from the harmonization device. If we lose that data—" Her words hung in the air, the implications clear to all on the bridge. The stakes had just gotten much higher. As the battle raged outside, the expedition team inside the seed ship fought their own desperate struggle. Dr. Krell and Lyra used their combined knowledge to reprogram several maintenance drones, turning them into impromptu guides and defenders. Lieutenant Commander Roberts and Kexthal managed to stabilize the propulsion system, narrowly avoiding a catastrophic collision with a massive asteroid. But their efforts came at a cost. A power surge ripped through the facility's core, starting a countdown to total meltdown. Zalthor, in a final daring plan, managed to create a backdoor in the Guardian AI's programming. As alarms blared and systems failed around him, he reopened communication channels with the fleet. "This is Zalthor to all ships." His voice rang out, strained but clear. "The facility's core is overloading. We need immediate extraction." Zephyr, having gathered crucial data on the facility's layout, formulated a plan. Using their connection to the ancient technology, they created a temporary safe corridor through the facility's defenses. "Everyone, converge on the main docking bay." Zephyr's voice echoed through the comm channels. "I'm clearing a path. Move quickly." As the team regrouped at the shuttle, the seed ship began to break apart around them. Energy discharges lashed out, interfering with the shuttle systems. Zephyr took the controls, their enhanced abilities allowing them to interface directly with the craft. "Hold on," they warned as the shuttle shot out of the disintegrating structure. The small craft emerged into a maelstrom of combat. Ancient defense drones, council peacekeepers, and alliance fighters filled the space around them, weapons fire crisscrossing in a deadly light show. Zephyr piloted the shuttle with inhuman precision, weaving through the chaos. Behind them, the seed ship erupted in a massive explosion, sending shockwaves and debris hurtling through space. As they approached the relative safety of the fleet, the true magnitude of what had transpired began to sink in. The invaluable knowledge contained within the seed ship was now lost, scattered among the asteroids or stored in fragmented form in their hastily gathered data. The shuttle's comm crackled to life as they neared the stellar Aegis. Admiral Roberts' voice came through, tight with a mixture of relief and apprehension. "Expedition team, report status. What in the name of all that's holy happened out there?" As Zephyr opened their mouth to respond, alarms blared across the shuttle's control panel. The final remnants of the ancient defense drones were closing in, weapons hot. And beyond them, council ships were moving into an attack formation, their intentions unclear. The shuttle, battered and low on power, limped towards the waiting fleet. But it was clear that their ordeal was just the beginning. The consequences of their actions, the loss of the seed ship, and the political fallout from this chaotic encounter all loomed on the horizon, promising challenges that would test the limits of their newfound unity. Alliance. The shuttle's engine sputtered, straining against the onslaught of debris and weapons fire. Zephyr's hands flew across the control panel, their cybernetic implants interfacing directly with the ship systems. "Hang on," they shouted as the craft lurched to avoid a piece of the destroyed seed ship hurtling towards them. Suddenly, a swarm of Allied fighters swooped in, forming a protective barrier around the battered shuttle. The comm crackled to life with a chorus of voices from the Allied pilots. "We've got you covered, Zephyr." Make for the stellar Aegis. We'll clear the path. Relief washed over the expedition team as they watched their allies engage the remaining defense drones, creating a corridor of relative safety. The shuttle limped towards the imposing silhouette of the stellar Aegis, its docking bay doors already yawning open in anticipation. As they touched down, the ship's artificial gravity fluctuated, causing the team to stumble. Emergency sirens blared, and the docking bay was a flurry of activity. Medical teams rushed forward, led by Dr. Lara Chun, the Aegis's chief medical officer. "Anyone injured?" Dr. Chun called out as the shuttle's hatch hissed open. Lieutenant Commander Robert stepped out first, helping a visibly shaken Dr. Krell. "We're all alive," she reported, "but I think we could all use a thorough checkup." The medical team swarmed around them, scanning for injuries and helping them onto hover gurneys. As Zalthor emerged, his void-black form rippling with exhaustion, Admiral Thax's voice boomed over the ship-wide comm system. "All ships, initiate full retreat to safe distance. I repeat, fall back immediately." The deck beneath their feet rumbled as the stellar Aegis's engines roared to life. Through the still-open docking bay doors, they could see the other ships of the fleet beginning to move away from the expanding cloud of debris that marked the siege ship's final resting place. As the medical team whisked them away to the infirmary, the reality of what they'd just experienced began to sink in. The loss of the ancient facility, the narrow escape, the precious data they'd managed to salvage, it all swirled in their minds like a chaotic maelstrom. In the ship's bustling command center, Admiral Thax stood before a holographic display of the retreating fleet. His weathered face was etched with concern as he turned to his second-in-command. "Status report on the expedition team?" "All accounted for and in the infirmary, sir," came the reply. "No serious injuries reported." Thax nodded, a small measure of tension leaving his shoulders. But before he could respond, a priority communication alert flashed on the main screen. "Incoming transmission from General Krozax of the Zorn Confederacy," announced the communications officer. Thax straightened his uniform and took a deep breath. "Put it through." The holographic display flickered, replaced by the imposing visage of General Krozax. The Zorn leader's scaled face was contorted with almost unchecked rage. "Admiral Thax," Krozax snarled, mandibles clicking, "your reckless actions have endangered us all. The destruction of that facility is an affront to all sentient species. We demand immediate access to any and all data retrieved from the siege ship." Thax raised a hand, his voice calm but firm. "General, I understand your concern, but I assure you we had no intention of." He was cut off by another incoming transmission. The holoscreen split, revealing the elegant features of Syndicate Overseer Zyra of the Quarren. "Gentlemen," Zyra interjected, her melodious voice carrying an edge of steel, "while I share the General's concerns, we must approach the situation with diplomacy. The potential weapons technology lost in that explosion could shift the balance of power in our sector. We need to discuss this calmly and rationally." Before either Thax or Krozax could respond, a fourth face appeared on the screen, the serene visage of High Arbiter ZYX of the Galactic Council. "Esteemed colleagues," ZYX's resonant voice cut through the tension, "I am calling an emergency session aboard the Council ship. All factions, including the recently rescued expedition team, are to attend immediately. We must address the situation before it escalates further." As the transmission ended, Admiral Thax turned to his crew. "Prepare a shuttle for the council meeting, and get me a full report from the expedition team. We need to know exactly what we're dealing with." In the infirmary, the team members were finishing up their medical examinations when they received the summons. Zephyr, still connected to a diagnostic machine, looked up at the others. "Looks like our debriefing is going to be more complicated than we thought," they said, disconnecting the leads from their temples. Dr. Krell chittered nervously, his multifaceted eyes darting between his teammates. What we found in there, it could change everything. Lyra placed a crystalline hand on Krell's shoulder, her form shimmering with concern. Then we'd better make sure we get it right. The future of galactic civilization might just depend on it. As they made their way to the shuttle bay, the weight of their responsibility settled over them like a heavy cloak. The data they carried, the experiences they'd shared, and the decisions that lay ahead would shape the course of history for countless worlds and species. The shuttle departed the stellar Aegis, carrying the expedition team towards the looming form of the Galactic Council ship. As they approached, they could see other shuttles converging from all directions, representatives from every major faction in the sector, gathering to determine the fate of the knowledge they'd risked everything to obtain. Zephyr piloted the craft into the Council ship's cavernous docking bay, their enhanced senses taking in the tense atmosphere. Security personnel from a dozen different species stood at attention, their diverse forms a testament to the complexity of the situation they now faced. As the team disembarked, they were met by a council aide, a tall, willowy being with iridescent skin. "This way, please," the aide gestured. "The emergency session is about to begin." The team exchanged glances, each drawing strength from the others. Whatever came next, they would face it together. With a collective deep breath, they stepped forward, ready to share their discoveries and shape the future of the galaxy. The team stepped into the council chamber, a vast circular room with tiered seating accommodating representatives from every major species. The air was thick with tension as they took their places at the center of the floor. High Arbiter ZYX, a towering figure with luminescent skin, called the session to order. "We are gathered here to address the events surrounding the siege ship and its subsequent destruction. The implications of this incident are far-reaching and potentially civilization-altering. We must proceed with caution and wisdom." For hours, the expedition team recounted their experiences, presenting the data they had managed to salvage. The chamber erupted into a cacophony of voices, each faction vying to assert their interests and concerns. As the debates raged on, it became clear that reaching a consensus would be no easy task. As the session drew to a close, High Arbiter ZYX made a proclamation. "In light of the gravity of this situation, I propose we adjourn to consult with our respective governments. We will reconvene in 48 standard hours to determine our course of action." With the council session concluded, the various factions dispersed, leaving the expedition team to return to the stellar Aegis. As their shuttle docked, they were met with a flurry of activity. Admiral Thax's voice boomed over the ship-wide comm system. "All hands, this is Admiral Thax. We are establishing a secure command center to coordinate our efforts regarding the siege ship structures. I want all department heads to report immediately." The team was quickly ushered to a specially prepared medical bay. Dr. Lara Chun, accompanied by a diverse group of medical experts, including Quarren specialists, began a thorough examination of each team member. Dr. Krell, despite his own fatigue, joined the medical team in analyzing the data. His multifaceted eyes widened as he studied the results. "Fascinating," he chittered. "There appear to be subtle alterations in their neural pathways. It's as if their brains have been upgraded." Zephyr, lying on an examination table with various scanners hovering over them, spoke up. "I can feel it. It's like everything is clearer, more connected. I can process information faster than ever before." As the medical team continued their work, Mark took charge of organizing the proposed joint research initiative. His diplomatic experience, combined with his newly acquired Malin traits, made him uniquely suited for the task. He worked tirelessly, drafting frameworks for cooperation and outlining protocols for sharing resources and information. Belle, her enhanced cognitive abilities proving invaluable, assisted Mark in synthesizing the complex data from multiple sources. "If we structure the initiative like this," she said, manipulating a holographic display, We can maximize efficiency while ensuring equal access for all participating species. Meanwhile, in a nearby laboratory, a team of Quarren scientists led by Lyra made a breakthrough in decoding part of the retrieved seed ship data. Lyra's crystalline form shimmered with excitement as she burst into the command center. "Admiral Thax," she called out, "we've discovered information about an advanced propulsion system. It could revolutionize space travel, potentially allowing for near-instantaneous transportation across vast distances." The news spread quickly, and within hours, General Krazax of the Zorn Confederacy was demanding immediate access to the propulsion system data. His aggressive stance threatened to derail the fragile alliance that had begun to form. Admiral Roberts, seeing the potential for conflict, stepped forward with a proposal. "What if we establish a joint development program for this propulsion technology? We could place it under the oversight of the Galactic Council to prevent its weaponization." As negotiations continued, Zalthor, the Void-born representative, approached Empress Zara with an unexpected offer. His void-black form rippled as he spoke in low, resonant tones. "We possess ancient star charts detailing the locations of other seed ships scattered throughout the galaxy. We are willing to share this information in exchange for full participation in the research initiative and equal access to all discovered technologies." Empress Zara, recognizing the potential impact of this offer, quickly convened an emergency meeting with Admiral Thax, Mark, and High Arbiter ZYX. After intense deliberation, they decided to accept the Voidborn's proposal. With the decision made, Admiral Thax began planning a series of long-range expeditions to locate and study the other seed ships. He assembled a fleet of the most advanced ships from each faction, creating mixed crews to foster cooperation and shared expertise. "Mark," Thax said, turning to the diplomat, "I'm appointing you as the overall commander of this new exploration fleet. You'll have representatives from each species serving as your lieutenants." As preparations for the expeditions got underway, Dr. Krell made a startling discovery. He burst into the command center, his exoskeleton quivering with agitation. "Admiral, the genetic modifications initiated by Zephyr's harmonization device. They're showing signs of instability in some individuals. We need to address this immediately." Zephyr, upon hearing this news, stepped forward. "The medical knowledge we retrieved from the seed ship, could we use it to develop a stabilizing treatment?" Dr. Krell nodded enthusiastically. Yes. With a team of geneticists from various species, we might be able to create a solution to ensure the safety and longevity of the hybridization process." As the first wave of exploration ships prepared for departure, the Galactic Council established a new governing body to oversee the joint research initiative and exploration efforts. This interspecies council, comprised of representatives from all participating factions, would be responsible for making critical decisions regarding the use and distribution of newly discovered technologies. The day of launch arrived, and the assembled fleet stood ready, a testament to the newfound cooperation between once rival species. Mark stood on the bridge of the lead ship, surveying the array of vessels before him. It was a sight that would have been unimaginable just weeks ago. As the launch sequence began, long-range sensors suddenly detected an anomaly at the edge of the system. A massive energy signature, unlike anything encountered before, appeared briefly before vanishing. The sensor operators scrambled to make sense of the readings. "Commander," one of the operators called out, "we've never seen anything like this before. It's gone now, but the energy output was off the charts." Mark felt a chill run down his spine as he processed this information. He turned to his diverse crew, seeing the mixture of excitement and apprehension on their faces. "Well," he said, his voice steady, "it seems the universe has another surprise in store for us. Let's go find out what it is." With that, the exploration fleet engaged their engines, leaving the safety of their home system behind. As they accelerated towards the unknown, The mysterious energy signature lingered in their thoughts, a reminder that for all their recent advancements, the true wonders and potential dangers of the galaxy were yet to be discovered. The fleet's departure marked the beginning of a new era of exploration and cooperation, but it also left behind a mystery that demanded immediate attention. Admiral Thax stood on the bridge of the stellar Aegis, his eyes fixed on the holographic display showing the last known location of the anomalous energy signature. He turned to Empress Zara and High Arbiter ZYX, who had joined him to address this pressing concern. "We can't ignore this potential threat," Thax said, his voice grave. "I propose we form a specialized task force to investigate this anomaly thoroughly." Empress Zara nodded, her crystalline form shimmering with intensity. "Agreed. We should utilize the most advanced sensor ships from each faction. This united approach will demonstrate our commitment to our newfound alliance." High Arbiter ZYX's luminescent skin pulsed in agreement. "I concur. Let us assemble our finest minds and technologies for this task." Within hours, a fleet of sensor ships from various species gathered near the stellar Aegis. Each vessel boasted unique capabilities, from the Quarren's quantum-entangled scanners to the Voidborn's dark matter detectors. The task force began a methodical sweep of the area, their diverse technologies working in concert to unravel the mystery. Meanwhile, aboard the lead exploration ship, the Stellar Voyager, Commander Mark organized his crew with military precision. He gathered the senior officers in the ship's conference room, a space designed to accommodate the various physiologies of the mixed-species crew. "Our mission is unprecedented," Mark began, his newly acquired Malin traits lending his voice a resonant quality. "We'll be approaching and studying siege ships indicated on the Voidborn star charts. To maximize our efficiency and safety, I'm dividing our crew into specialized teams." He gestured to a holographic display showing the ship's layout and crew manifest. Team Alpha will focus on navigation and approach. Beta Team will handle xenoarchaeology and data retrieval. Gamma Team will be responsible for defense and security. As Mark outlined the protocols for approaching the siege ships, the ship's long-range sensors began to ping. A junior officer, a Zorn with iridescent scales, interrupted the briefing. "Commander," the officer reported, "we're detecting a massive structure orbiting a gas giant in the Epsilon Eridani system. It matches the description provided by Zalthor." Mark's enhanced senses allowed him to process this information rapidly. "Excellent. All teams, prepare for our approach. We'll implement the protocols we've just discussed." Back at the main fleet, Dr. Krell and Zephyr worked tirelessly in the medical bay of the stellar Aegis. Their efforts to develop a stabilizing treatment for the genetic modifications had yielded promising results. Dr. Krell chittered excitedly as he examined the latest data. "Zephyr, look at this. The compound we've synthesized is showing a 92% success rate in stabilizing the genetic alterations in our test subjects." Zephyr leaned in, their enhanced vision allowing them to perceive subtle patterns in the data. "Incredible. But there's a catch, isn't there?" Krell's antennae drooped slightly. "Yes. The compound requires rare materials found only in specific stellar phenomena. We'll need to organize resource-gathering missions to ensure a sustainable supply." As they discussed the logistics of obtaining these rare materials, a new face entered the medical bay. Dr. Alara Voss, a human with striking green eyes and a shock of white hair, approached the pair. "Dr. Krell, Zephyr." She greeted them warmly. "I'm Dr. Alara Voss. Admiral Thax asked me to join your research team. I specialize in interspecies genetics, and I'm here to assist with the ongoing analysis of the siege ship data." Zephyr extended a hand in greeting, their skin shimmering with a mix of curiosity and excitement. "Welcome aboard, Dr. Voss. Your expertise will be invaluable to our work." As the three scientists delved into their research, sharing insights and theories, The exploration fleet led by Mark approached the first siege ship. The massive structure loomed before them, a testament to the advanced technology of the ancient civilization that created it. However, as they drew closer, they encountered an unexpected obstacle. The siege ship was surrounded by a dense field of swirling, metallic particles. "Analysis complete, Commander," reported the science officer, a Quarren whose multifaceted eyes reflected the strange phenomenon before them. "It's a field of self-replicating nanomachines. They're forming an impenetrable barrier around the siege ship." Mark's mind raced, processing the problem and potential solutions at an accelerated rate. He turned to his diverse crew, each member bringing unique perspectives and abilities to the table. "We need to create a temporary corridor through this nanobot field," Mark announced. "I propose we use precisely calibrated electromagnetic pulses to disrupt their cohesion. Engineering team, work on modifying our deflector array. Science team, calculate the exact frequency and amplitude needed for maximum effect." As the crew sprang into action, Mark couldn't help but marvel at the seamless cooperation between species that would have been unthinkable mere weeks ago. The shared goal of unlocking the secrets of the siege ships had united them in ways he never thought possible. While the exploration team prepared to breach the nanobot barrier, the task force investigating the mysterious energy signature made a breakthrough. Aboard the lead sensor ship, a Void-born operator's void-black form rippled with excitement as they called out to their superior. "Captain, we've detected a faint, recurring pattern hidden within subspace frequencies. It's unlike anything we've encountered before." The captain, a seasoned Malin strategist, leaned in to examine the data. "Intriguing. Run a comparative analysis with all known signal types in our database." After several tense minutes, the results appeared on the main screen. The captain's eyes widened in surprise. "This pattern, it bears similarities to the encryption used in the siege ship data. Alert Admiral Thax immediately. We may have found a link between the anomaly and the ancient civilization." As this news traveled back to the main fleet, Bell, working alongside Dr. Voss and a team of Quarren scientists aboard the Stellar Aegis, made a significant breakthrough in decrypting the propulsion system data retrieved from the destroyed siege ship. Bell manipulated a holographic display, her fingers dancing through the complex schematics. The system creates localized wormholes, allowing for near-instantaneous travel across vast distances. But the power requirements, they're astronomical. Dr. Voss nodded, her expression a mix of awe and concern. "Far beyond our current capabilities. Implementing this technology will require a complete revolution in our understanding of energy generation and manipulation." As these discoveries reverberated through the Alliance, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. High Arbiter Zuwaix's voice echoed through the council chambers as he addressed the assembled representatives. "Esteemed colleagues, the implications of these findings are profound. I propose we establish a unified scientific body to oversee the development and implementation of siege ship technologies. We must ensure that no single faction gains a disproportionate advantage." The chamber erupted into a cacophony of voices, each species voicing their concerns and demands. General Krazax of the Zorn Confederacy rose, his scales flashing with agitation. "The Zorn Confederacy has contributed significant resources to this alliance," he growled. "We demand priority access to the propulsion system data. If our needs are not met, we may be forced to reconsider our participation in these joint initiatives." Tension filled the air as the various factions faced the possibility of their fragile alliance fracturing. But before the situation could escalate further, Empress Zara stepped forward, her crystalline form commanding attention. "Esteemed representatives," she began, her voice calm but authoritative, "I propose a compromise. Let us create a technology exchange program. Each faction will contribute unique advancements to a common pool, ensuring mutual benefit and fostering continued cooperation." As the council debated this proposal, the exploration team led by Mark finally breached the nanobot barrier surrounding the seed ship. The stellar Voyager carefully maneuvered through the temporary corridor they had created, approaching the ancient structure with a mixture of anticipation and caution. Mark stood on the bridge, his enhanced senses alert for any sign of danger. "Initiate docking procedures," he ordered, "and prepare the boarding team. We're about to step into history." As the ship's airlock sealed against the seed ship's hull, the crew couldn't help but feel that they stood on the precipice of discoveries that would reshape their understanding of the galaxy and their place within it. The true scope of the ancient civilization's legacy was about to be revealed, and with it, the potential for both wondrous advancements and unforeseen challenges. As the airlock cycled open, Mark and his team stepped into the cavernous interior of the seed ship, their footsteps echoing in the ancient chamber. The team moved cautiously through dimly lit corridors, their equipment scanning for any signs of active systems. Suddenly, a shimmer of light caught their attention. Before them, a holographic interface flickered to life, its form more defined and stable than the Guardian AI they had encountered in the previous facility. "Welcome, explorers," the hologram greeted them, its voice resonant and clear. "I am the custodian, caretaker of the seed ship and repository of knowledge from the progenitors." Mark stepped forward, his enhanced senses alert for any potential threat. "We come seeking knowledge about your creators and the purpose of these seed ships." The custodian's form shifted, displaying a three-dimensional map of the galaxy. The progenitors embarked on a grand experiment, seeding life across the galaxy. "Our purpose was not merely to spread life, but to cultivate diversity and foster cooperation among intelligent species." As the hologram spoke, it highlighted various regions of the galaxy, showcasing the extent of the progenitors' influence. The team watched in awe as the full scope of the ancient civilization's project unfolded before them. "Your alliance," the custodian continued, "is the culmination of our Creator's vision, a gathering of diverse species, working together to unlock the secrets of the universe." While Mark's team delved deeper into the seed ship's archives, Dr. Alara Voss worked tirelessly in her lab aboard the stellar Aegis. Her fingers danced across holographic displays, analyzing the genetic data retrieved from the destroyed seed ship. "Computer, run a comparative analysis of genetic markers across all known sentient species," she commanded, her green eyes reflecting the scrolling data. As the results poured in, Dr. Voss's eyes widened. "This can't be. Computer, verify findings." The computer chimed its confirmation, and Dr. Voss leaned back in her chair, stunned by the implications of her discovery. She quickly composed herself and activated the ship's communication system. "Admiral Fax, this is Dr. Voss. I've made a critical discovery that requires your immediate attention." Within minutes, Admiral Fax arrived at the lab, accompanied by Dr. Krell and Zephyr. Dr. Voss wasted no time in presenting her findings. "I've identified a dormant gene sequence present in all known sentient species," she explained, bringing up a holographic representation of the gene. "When activated, this gene has the potential to significantly enhance cognitive abilities and interspecies empathy." Admiral Fax's expression grew serious as he processed the information. "Dr. Voss, assemble a team of the best geneticists from all participating factions. I want to secure a research facility established immediately to investigate these findings further." As the Admiral left to make the necessary arrangements, Dr. Krell and Zephyr exchanged excited glances. "This could be the key to stabilizing the genetic modifications initiated by the harmonization device," Zephyr said, their skin shimmering with excitement. Back on the seed ship, Mark's team had made their way to a vast chamber filled with unfamiliar technology. The custodian's hologram appeared once more, gesturing to the array of devices. "Before you lies the legacy of the progenitor's terraforming capabilities," the AI explained. "Atmospheric processors, climate stabilizers, and rapid growth vegetation systems. tools to shape worlds and create habitable environments across the galaxy. The team members moved among the devices, their eyes wide with wonder. A Quarren scientist ran her multifaceted eyes over an atmospheric processor, her appendages trembling with excitement. The applications of this technology. We could transform barren worlds into thriving ecosystems. As they explored the chamber, a team member accidentally brushed against a control panel. The room hummed to life, and a massive communication array began to power up. Warning, the custodian announced, its tone urgent. The primary communication array has been activated. It is broadcasting a signal across the galaxy, alerting other dormant seed ships to your presence. Mark's mind raced, processing the potential consequences of this action. Can we shut it down? He asked urgently. The custodian's form flickered. Negative. The broadcast protocol is hardwired into the ship systems. However, I can assist you in decoding the signal to determine its full purpose. As Mark's team worked with the custodian to unravel the mystery of the broadcast, the task force investigating the mysterious energy signature detected an unexpected response. Aboard the lead sensor ship, the Void-born operator's form rippled with excitement. Captain, we're receiving a reply to the seed ship's broadcast. It's originating from a distant, unexplored sector. The Malin captain immediately relayed the information to High Arbiter ZYX, who authorized the dispatch of a scout ship to investigate the source. Meanwhile, news of the terraforming technology spread like wildfire through the Galactic Council. The chamber erupted into heated debates as various factions vied for access to the powerful tools. General Krazax of the Zorn Confederacy pounded his fist on the podium, his scales flashing with agitation. Such technology could easily be weaponized. It must be restricted to military use only, under the control of experienced strategists. Empress Zara stepped forward, her crystalline form commanding attention. Esteemed colleagues, I propose an alternative. Let us create an interspecies colonization initiative, using this technology to transform uninhabitable planets into worlds we can all share. Her proposal was met with a mix of approval and skepticism, but it sparked intense discussions among the council members. As political tensions rose, Dr. Krell and Zephyr made significant progress in their research. Using Dr. Voss's insights, they developed a prototype serum designed to safely activate the dormant gene. In a secure lab aboard the stellar Aegis, they administered the serum to a group of volunteer subjects from various species. The results were nothing short of remarkable. A human volunteer blinked rapidly, his eyes darting around the room. It's incredible, he gasped. I can perceive patterns I never noticed before, and I feel connected to everyone here in a way I can't explain. A Zorn subject nodded in agreement. Her usual aggressive demeanor softened. I understand you, she said, looking at her fellow volunteers with newfound empathy. Not just your words, but your feelings, your intentions. As these groundbreaking developments unfolded, the scout ship investigating the energy signature returned with astonishing news. The source of the subspace signals was a massive, ancient space station of unknown origin. Simultaneously, Mark's team on the seed ship decrypted more of the Galactic seeding project data. The custodian's hologram displayed a schematic of a vast network, with a central hub at its core. This hub, the custodian explained, coordinates all seed ships across the galaxy. Its location has been lost to time, but if found, it could provide control over the entire network of terraforming and colonization technologies. As this information spread through the Alliance, the various factions began to position themselves, each vying for access to these game-changing discoveries. The tenuous bonds of their newfound cooperation were about to be tested like never before. Mark stood in the control room of the seed ship, surrounded by his diverse crew. He could feel the weight of their recent discoveries pressing down on him. The galaxy was changing, and they were at the center of it all. With a deep breath, he turned to his team, ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead. The weight of their discoveries and the potential consequences of their actions caused great concern on his mind. But before he could address his team, alarms blared throughout the ship, shattering the moment of contemplation. Security breach detected in Sector 7. A computerized voice announced, echoing through the corridors. Mark's enhanced senses immediately went on high alert. He tapped his communication device, connecting to the ship's security network. "This is Mark. What's the situation?" Admiral Thax's voice crackled through the comm, tense and urgent. "We have intruders aboard the Stellar Aegis. A Zorn team has infiltrated our systems and stolen critical data on the gene activation process and terraforming technology." Mark's eyes sharp. "Understood, Admiral. We're on our way to assist." As Mark and his team raced through the siege ship's corridors towards the airlock, the custodian's hologram flickered to life beside them. "I must warn you," it said, its voice infused with concern. "Unauthorized access to the project's data has triggered an automated defense protocol. All siege ship systems will shut down imminently as a precautionary measure." Mark's eyes widened. "Can you override it?" The custodian's form shimmered. "Negative. The protocol is hardwired into the system. You have approximately 10 minutes before complete shutdown." Mark relayed this information to Admiral Thax as they reached the airlock. The Admiral's response was grim. "Understood. Get your team out of there now. We'll deal with the Zorn infiltrators." As Mark's team evacuated the siege ship, chaos erupted aboard the Stellar Aegis. Security teams swarmed through the corridors, searching for the Zorn infiltrators. Vexcar, the skilled Zorn operative leading the infiltration team, activated their advanced cloaking technology, rendering them nearly invisible to the naked eye. Dr. Alara Voss, alerted to the breach, rushed to secure her lab. She arrived just in time to see a shimmering outline disappearing through the doorway, a container of prototype serum clutched in ghostly hands. "Intruder!" she shouted, slamming her palm on the emergency lockdown button. Blast doors slammed shut throughout the ship, compartmentalizing sections and trapping the Zorn team. Vexcar hissed in frustration, his scales rippling beneath the cloaking field. "Team, converge on my position. We'll use the maintenance shafts to reach the escape pods." As the Zorn infiltrators navigated the labyrinthine inner workings of the Stellar Aegis, Admiral Thax coordinated the response from the bridge. All security teams switched to infrared scanning. Those cloaking devices can't mask their heat signatures. The chase intensified, with security forces closing in on the Zorn team. In a desperate bid to escape, Vexcar ordered his team to split up, hoping to divide the pursuers' attention. The tactic worked, but at a cost. As they raced through the ship's systems, stray weapons fire damaged critical components. Alarms blared as the ship's AI announced, "Warning, life support systems compromised in sectors 3 through 5. Structural integrity failing in lower engineering decks." Meanwhile, light years away, the scout ship investigating the ancient space station made a startling discovery. As they approached the massive structure, an energy field suddenly sprang to life, engulfing their vessel. The crew braced for impact, but instead of destruction, they experienced something far more profound. Captain Lyra of the scout ship gasped as her mind expanded, connecting with her crew in ways she had never imagined possible. "Control, are you receiving this?" she transmitted, her voice filled with awe. "The station. It's enhancing our cognitive abilities. We can communicate across species without translation devices. It's incredible." Back on the siege ship, Mark and his team watched in helpless frustration as the ancient vessel's systems began to power down. The custodian's hologram flickered weakly. "I must conserve power. The defense protocol is shutting down all siege ships across the galaxy. You must find a way to reactivate the network, or the progenitor's legacy will be lost." As the hologram faded, the lights dimmed and the ship's gentle hum fell silent. Mark's team found themselves trapped in the darkening vessel, their oxygen supply dwindling. In the Galactic Council chamber, news of the Zorn infiltration and the activation of the defense protocol spread like wildfire. Accusations flew as representatives from various factions pointed fingers and demanded explanations. General Krazax of the Zorn Confederacy stood defiant, his scales flashing with anger. "We acted to protect our interests," he roared. "The Alliance has been too slow, too cautious. We need these technologies now." The chamber erupted into chaos, with delegates shouting and gesticulating. It seemed the fragile alliance was on the brink of collapse. But then a clear, crystalline voice cut through the tumult. Empress Zara rose, her form glowing with an inner light. "Esteemed colleagues," she began, her voice calm yet commanding, "we stand at a crossroads. Our actions now will determine the fate of not just our alliance, but potentially all sentient life in the galaxy." The chamber fell silent as Zara continued. "I propose a radical solution. I volunteer to undergo the experimental gene activation process. Let my transformation be a symbol of our commitment to unity and cooperation." Gasps and murmurs filled the chamber as the implications of Zara's offer sank in. Dr. Krell and Zephyr exchanged glances, their excitement at the scientific possibilities tempered by the weight of responsibility. As preparations for Empress Zara's procedure began, Dr. Alara Voss made a breakthrough in analyzing the data from the ancient space station. Her eyes widened as she realized the true nature of the structure. "Admiral Thax," she called urgently, "the station isn't just a research facility. It's a central hub for the entire Galactic seeding project. If we can access its systems, we might be able to override the defense protocol and reactivate the seed ships." Admiral Thax, his face grim with grit, nodded. "Understood, Doctor. I'll assemble a joint task force immediately. We need the best operatives from each species if we're going to have any chance of securing that station." As the Admiral began issuing orders, a distress signal crackled through the communication system. Mark's voice, weak but urgent, came through. "This is Mark. We're trapped on the powered-down seed ship. Life support is failing. We need immediate extraction." The Admiral's fist clenched as he faced a mounting crises. With the fate of the Alliance hanging in the balance, he had to make a decision. The joint task force to secure the ancient space station was crucial, but he couldn't abandon Mark and his team. Time was running out, and the choices made in the next few moments would shape the future of the galaxy. Time was of the essence, and every decision carried immense weight. Admiral Thax's fingers flew over the command console as he issued rapid-fire orders. "Launch immediate extraction from Mark's team. Prepare a joint task force for the ancient space station. And get me a secure line to Empress Zara." As the bridge crew scrambled to execute his commands, a hollow screen flickered to life, revealing Empress Zara's crystalline features. Her eyes shimmered with a mix of perseverance and anticipation. "Admiral," she said, her voice clear and resolute, "I've made my decision. I will undergo the experimental gene activation process." Thax's eyes widened. "Your Majesty, the risks are necessary," Zara interrupted. "Our alliance needs a symbol of unity, now more than ever. This is how I can provide it." The Admiral nodded, recognizing the wisdom in her words. "Very well. I'll have Dr. Krell and Dr. Voss prepare immediately." Aboard the Stellar Aegis, Dr. Krell and Dr. Alara Voss worked with precision to set up the gene activation chamber. Empress Zara lay on the medical bed, her crystalline form glinting under the harsh lights. "Are you certain about this, Your Majesty?" Dr. Voss asked, her voice tinged with concern. Zara's gaze was unwavering. "Absolutely. Proceed." Dr. Krell nodded and initiated the sequence. A fine mist of the experimental serum enveloped the Empress, seeping into her crystalline structure. For a moment, nothing happened. Then, Zara's form began to glow, pulsing with an inner light that grew brighter by the second. Meanwhile, the Joint Task Force, led by Admiral Roberts, approached the ancient space station. The massive structure loomed before them, its architecture unlike anything they had ever seen. Energy field detected, the ship's AI announced. Similar composition to the one encountered by the scout ship. Admiral Roberts steeled himself. "Take us in." As their vessel entered the field, the crew gasped collectively. Lieutenant Lyra, the Quarren hacker, felt her mind expanding, connections forming with her crewmates that transcended language. "This is incredible," she breathed, her tentacles waving in excitement. Kexthal, the Zorn weapons expert, nodded in agreement, his usual aggressive demeanor softened by the newfound empathy coursing through him. Back on the disabled siege ship, Mark and his team worked feverishly to restore power to the communication array. The air grew thin as oxygen levels continued to drop. "Almost there," Mark muttered, his enhanced senses allowing him to manipulate the delicate circuitry with precision. With a final adjustment, the array hummed to life. Distress signal boosted. One of his team members announced, "Let's hope someone's listening." In response to their call, Captain Erica Steele's rescue vessel plunged into the treacherous asteroid field. Her hands danced over the controls, guiding the ship through the maze of tumbling rocks with preternatural skill. "Hold on, people," she called to her crew. "This is going to get bumpy." As these events unfolded, the stellar aegis buzzed with activity. Empress Zara emerged from the gene activation chamber, her crystalline form now pulsing with an inner light that seemed to shift and change with her thoughts. I can see it all so clearly now," she said, her voice resonating with newfound power. "We need to override the defense system, shutting down the siege ships." Dr. Voss looked at her in awe. "How?" Zara's eyes glowed with intensity. "We'll use the stellar aegis main energy core to broadcast a signal mimicking the ancient command protocols. It's our best chance to reactivate the network." As the crew rushed to implement Zara's plan, a Malin scout ship at the edge of the system picked up an alarming reading. "Admiral Thax," the Malin captain reported, his voice tense. "We've detected a large fleet of unknown origin approaching at high speed. Their technology, it's similar to the siege ships." Thax's mind raced, weighing options and potential outcomes. With a deep breath, he made his decision. Divide the fleet, one group to implement Empress Zara's plan, another to intercept the unknown fleet, and a third to support Captain Steele's rescue mission. On the ancient space station, the Joint Task Force made their way through cavernous halls filled with technology beyond their comprehension. Lyra worked furiously at a central console, her enhanced abilities allowing her to decipher the alien interface. "I'm in," she announced, accessing the main database now. The team watched in awe as the history of the ancient civilization unfolded before them. The true purpose of the Galactic Seeding Project came to light, a safeguard against a cosmic threat that had nearly annihilated the ancients eons ago. "We need to deactivate the defense system," Admiral Roberts ordered, his voice urgent. Lyra's tentacles flew over the controls, bypassing security protocols with unnatural speed. Suddenly, alarms blared throughout the station. "Warning," an ancient AI's voice echoed. "Unauthorized access detected. Initiating self-destruct sequence." The task force exchanged looks of horror as a countdown appeared on the main screen. They had mere minutes to salvage what they could and escape before the station destroyed itself, and them along with it. In the asteroid field, Captain Steele's rescue ship weaved through the deadly obstacles, drawing ever closer to Mark's disabled siege ship. The comm crackled to life. "This is Mark. We're running out of air. Please hurry." Steele gritted her teeth, pushing the ship to its limits. Hold on, we're almost there. As multiple crises converged, the fate of the Alliance, and perhaps the entire galaxy, hung in the balance. The actions taken in the next few moments would shape the course of history, for better or worse. As the fleet divided to address the mounting crises, Admiral Thax's command center buzzed with frantic activity. Tactical displays flickered with real-time updates from multiple fronts, each demanding immediate attention. On the bridge of the stellar Aegis, Empress Zara's crystalline form pulsed with newfound energy. Her enhanced mind raced through countless calculations, piecing together a solution that could save them all. Dr. Voss, we need to reconfigure the main energy core, Zara announced, her voice resonating with urgency. If we can modulate its output to match the frequency of the ancient command protocols, we might be able to override the defense system. Dr. Voss nodded, her fingers flying over the holographic interface. Initiating core recalibration now, Your Majesty. As the engineering team worked to implement Zara's plan, Captain Erica Steele's rescue vessel plunged deeper into the treacherous asteroid field. The ship's hull groaned under the stress of sharp maneuvers as Steele expertly navigated through the maze of tumbling space rocks. Approaching target coordinates, her navigator announced, voice tense. ETA 2 minutes. Steele's eyes narrowed as she spotted Mark's disabled siege ship through a gap in the asteroids. Prepare docking procedures. We're going in hot. Meanwhile, on the ancient space station, alarms blared as the self-destruct sequence counted down. Admiral Roberts' Joint Task Force scrambled to salvage what they could before time ran out. Lyra, the Quarren hacker, worked feverishly at the central console, her tentacles a blur over the alien interface. "I've almost got it," she muttered, her enhanced cognitive abilities pushing the limits of the station's security protocols. Suddenly, the alarms fell silent. Lyra let out a triumphant chirp. Self-destruct aborted. But their relief was short-lived. The station's structure shuddered ominously, and emergency lights bathed the cavernous hall in an eerie red glow. Station power failing, the ancient AI intoned. Structural integrity compromised. Admiral Roberts' voice cut through the chaos. Download what you can and fall back to the ship. Move. As the task force retreated, Kexthal, the Zorn weapons expert, covered their exit. His plasma rifle spat arcs of energy, disabling internal defense systems that threatened to trap them inside the collapsing structure. Back in the main fleet, Admiral Thax received an urgent transmission. A Malin scout ship's holographic projection materialized before him, revealing the captain's concerned features. "Admiral, we've detected a large fleet of unknown origin approaching at high speed," the Malin reported. "Their technology, it's similar to the siege ships." Before Thax could respond, another signal cut through the comms. A massive void-borne ship, far larger and more advanced than any previously encountered, emerged from a nearby nebula. "This is Zalvex of the Cosmic Whisper," a deep, resonant voice announced. "We bring vital information about the approaching fleet." As Zalvex explained the nature of the automated ships and their connection to the ancient civilization, Dax quickly reassessed his strategy. He ordered the intercepting fighters to hold position, allowing the Cosmic Whisper to approach the unknown fleet. The void-borne ship projected an enormous energy field that enveloped the incoming vessels. The automated fleet slowed, then stopped their advance entirely. On the disabled siege ship, Mark and his team made a desperate attempt to restart the main power systems. They rerouted emergency power to the ship's core, causing a series of small explosions that rocked the vessel. "Stabilize those power fluctuations," Mark shouted over the blaring alarms. Sparks showered from overloading circuits as they fought to keep the systems online. Just as the situation seemed most dire, a loud clang reverberated through the hull. Captain Steele's voice crackled over the comms. "This is your rescue party. Hope we're not interrupting anything." Relief washed over Mark's face as he saw the rescue team, clad in protective suits, entering through the pressurized docking tube. As crises across the system seemed to purpose, the stellar aegis hummed with power. Empress Zara stood at the center of the bridge, her crystalline form glowing intensely. "Initiating broadcast," she announced, her voice filled with drive. The ship's energy core pulsed, emitting a brilliant beam that spread across the system. One by one, the siege ships began to reactivate, their systems coming back online. But even as hope blossomed, a new threat loomed. At the edge of the system, space itself began to warp and twist. A massive vortex of dark energy materialized, emitting powerful gravitational waves that threatened to tear apart everything in their path. Admiral Thax's voice cut through the stunned silence on the stellar Aegis bridge. "All ships, brace for impact. This is not a drill." As the cosmic phenomenon grew, the combined fleet of the Alliance, the reactivated siege ships, and the void-borne vessels formed a defensive line. The future of the cosmos now hung in the balance, with the newly forged unity of diverse species facing its ultimate test. Empress Zara's eyes gleamed with fierce perseverance as she addressed the fleet. "This is the moment we've been preparing for. Together, we stand against the darkness." The swirling vortex of dark energy expanded, its tendrils reaching out across space. As the Alliance prepared to face this unprecedented threat, the true battle for the galaxy's survival was about to begin. The swirling vortex of dark energy expanded, its tendrils reaching out across space. As the Alliance prepared to face this unprecedented threat, Admiral Thax's voice cut through the tension. "All ships, fall back to a safe distance immediately," he ordered, his tone brooking no argument. "We need to regroup and assess the situation." The fleet responded with practiced efficiency, engines flaring as vessels of all sizes retreated from the encroaching darkness. The stellar Aegis, with Empress Zara's crystalline form glowing at its heart, took point in the strategic withdrawal. As the Alliance ships maneuvered to safety, Captain Erica Steele's rescue vessel emerged from the treacherous asteroid field, Mark and his team safely aboard. The ship's communications officer patched through to the stellar Aegis. "This is Captain Steele reporting successful extraction," she announced, relief evident in her voice. "We have critical data from the siege ship's archives." Mark, still catching his breath from the harrowing rescue, approached the bridge. "We've uncovered information on advanced shielding technology," he said, his eyes bright with excitement despite his exhaustion. "It could be our best defense against this cosmic anomaly." As the rescue ship rejoined the main fleet, a massive void-borne vessel glided past, its sleek form dwarfing even the largest Alliance warships. Zalvex's deep voice resonated through the comms. "We will attempt to contain the dark energy vortex," the void-borne captain stated. "Our technology may buy you time to formulate a response." The cosmic whisper approached the swirling maelstrom, its hull gleaming with otherworldly energies. As it neared the vortex, a shimmering field of energy burst forth, enveloping the cosmic threat in a translucent bubble. Aboard the stellar Aegis, Dr. Lara Voss and Dr. Krell hunched over holographic displays, their faces illuminated by streams of data pouring in from the ancient space station and the siege ships. "This is incredible," Dr. Voss murmured, her fingers dancing across the interface. The ancients were working on a weapon to neutralize these dark energy events. Dr. Krell nodded, his reptilian features set in concentration. But it was never completed. The civilization fell before they could deploy it. Admiral Thax strode onto the bridge, his expression grim. "We need options, and we need them now. Convene an emergency council with representatives from all allied species." Within minutes, the stellar Aegis war room filled with a diverse array of beings. Holographic projections flickered to life, connecting those who couldn't be physically present. Admiral Thax stood at the head of the table, his voice carrying across the assembly. We face a threat unlike any we've encountered before, he began. But we also have unprecedented resources at our disposal. Together, we must find a way to complete and deploy the ancient weapon. Ideas flew back and forth as the greatest minds of multiple civilizations tackled the problem. Slowly, a plan began to take shape. The reactivated seed ships would serve as power sources, channeling their immense energy into the stellar aegis, which would act as the primary firing platform. As the council adjourned, a priority message came through from the cosmic whisper. Zalvex's hologram appeared, his usually stoic features showing signs of strain. "The containment field is weakening," he reported. "We estimate it will collapse within hours. You must act quickly." With time running short, the Alliance sprang into action. Mark, his body still humming with the effects of seed ship exposure, took charge of modifying the stellar aegis main energy core. He worked alongside a diverse team of engineers, integrating salvage components from the seed ships to amplify the flagship's power output. "We need to recalibrate the phase inductors," Mark called out, his hands deep in a tangle of glowing circuitry. "Divert power from the secondary systems to compensate for the energy surge." As the engineering teams raced against time, General Krazax of the Zorn Confederacy approached Admiral Thax. The Zorn's mandibles clicked in what passed for a respectful gesture among his people. "Admiral, allow us to redeem ourselves," Krazax said, his voice gravelly. "Our most advanced warships stand ready to form a defensive perimeter around the stellar aegis during weapon deployment." Thax nodded, recognizing the significance of the offer. "Coordinate with Captain Steele. She'll be leading a fighter squadron to protect the seed ships during the operation." As preparations continued at a feverish pace, the dark energy vortex grew more volatile. Nearby planets and moons began to show signs of gravitational distress. Tectonic activity spiked on several worlds, while others experienced severe atmospheric disruptions. "We need to evacuate the affected colonies," Empress Zara declared, her crystalline form pulsing with urgency. "Every ship capable of atmospheric entry should assist in the evacuation efforts." A massive logistical operation unfolded as ships from all factions scrambled to transport civilians to safety. The unity of purpose among the once divided species was a testament to the gravity of their shared predicament. In the stellar aegis main laboratory, Dr. Ilera Voss worked tirelessly to stabilize the ancient weapon design. Her eureka moment came as she successfully integrated the gene activation serum into the weapon's core. This biological interface will allow for precise control over the dark energy neutralization process, she explained to Admiral Thax and Empress Zara. "But it requires a direct neural connection." Zara stepped forward, her crystalline form shimmering with willpower. "I will operate the interface," she said, her voice resonating with newfound power. "My enhanced abilities make me the most suitable candidate." As the final preparations were made, the Alliance fleet took up formation around the stellar aegis. The reactivated seed ships moved into position, their massive forms humming with barely suppressed energy. Captain Steele's fighter squadron zipped between the larger vessels, ready to respond to any threat. On the bridge of the stellar aegis, Admiral Thax stood at the helm, his gaze fixed on the swirling vortex of dark energy that loomed beyond the failing void-borne containment field. The ship began to vibrate as it channeled unprecedented levels of power from the seed ships. Empress Zara, connected to the biological interface, gasped as intense neural feedback flooded her consciousness. Her crystalline form pulsed with waves of light as she guided the weapon's targeting systems. Suddenly, the dark energy vortex intensified its assault on the containment field. Massive tendrils of distorted space-time lashed out, threatening to engulf nearby ships. The Zorn defensive perimeters sprang into action, their advanced shields straining against the onslaught. "Containment field at critical levels." Zalvex's voice crackled through the comms. "We cannot hold it much longer." Admiral Thax's voice rang out, clear and decisive. All ships, stand ready. Empress Zara, on my mark, initiate the firing sequence. The stellar Aegis energy core pulsed with blinding intensity as it prepared to unleash the ancient weapon. The destiny of the universe hung in the balance, with the unified alliance poised to confront a cosmic threat that had once brought low an entire civilization. The tension on the stellar Aegis bridge was palpable as Admiral Thax prepared to give the order. "Fire!" he commanded, his voice echoing through the ship's corridors. In that instant, the ancient weapon surged to life, channeling an unprecedented amount of energy. The stellar Aegis shuddered violently, its frame groaning under the strain. Sparks erupted from control panels across the bridge, and warning klaxons blared throughout the vessel. Empress Zara's crystalline form pulsed erratically as she struggled to maintain control over the weapon's targeting systems. Her body convulsed, the neural feedback threatening to overwhelm her enhanced physiology. "Empress!" Dr. Alara Voss cried out, rushing to Zara's side. The scientist fumbled with a hypo spray, her hands shaking as she administered a modified version of the gene activation serum. "This should help stabilize your neural pathways," she explained, her voice barely audible over the cacophony of alarms. Outside the flagship, the situation deteriorated rapidly. The void-borne containment field flickered and wavered, unable to withstand the intensifying assault of the dark energy vortex. Massive tendrils of distorted space-time lashed out, their gravitational force warping the very fabric of reality. "Containment field critical," Zalvex's strained voice crackled through the comms. "We cannot hold it any longer." The defensive line of Zorn warships bore the brunt of the initial onslaught. General Krazax's flagship, positioned at the forefront, shuddered as its advanced shield strained against the cosmic forces. "All non-essential personnel, evacuate immediately," Admiral Thax ordered, his eyes fixed on the tactical display. "This is not a drill. I repeat, all non-essential personnel to the escape pods." The corridors of the stellar Aegis filled with crew members rushing to safety. Escape pods jettisoned from the flagship in rapid succession, streaking towards the relative safety of nearby support ships. In the engineering section, Mark worked feverishly, his hands deep in the weapon's power distribution system. Sweat beaded on his brow as he navigated the maze of circuits and conduits, acutely aware of the radiation bathing his body. Come on," he muttered, making a critical adjustment. Warning indicators flashed red, signaling dangerous levels of radiation exposure. Mark gritted his teeth, pushing through the pain. His enhanced physiology from the siege ship exposure allowed him to endure, but he knew his time was limited. Captain Erica Steele's voice cut through the chaos. "Fighter squadron, form up. We've got incoming debris from the containment field. Protect those siege ships at all costs." Her pilots responded with practiced precision, their ships darting between chunks of twisted metal and energy discharges. Steele herself executed a series of tight maneuvers, her fighters' energy weapons vaporizing projectiles mere meters from the nearest siege ship. On the bridge of the Cosmic Whisper, Captain Zalvex made a decision that would alter the course of the battle. "Divert all power to phase shift systems," he commanded, his deep voice resonating with perseverance. "Prepare for quantum displacement." The void-borne vessel began to vibrate, its sleek hull shimmering as it prepared to slip between the very threads of reality. In a flash of otherworldly energy, the Cosmic Whisper vanished from normal space-time, leaving behind a rapidly collapsing containment field. Dr. Krell's clawed hands flew over a holographic interface as he made last-minute adjustments to the weapon's targeting array. "Integrating siege ship data now," he announced, his reptilian features set in dogged dedication. "Transmitting updated firing sequence to the Empress." Zara's cry of pain echoed through the bridge as her mind processed the new information. Her crystalline form flickered and pulsed, struggling to maintain cohesion under the immense strain. The Zorn defensive line began to crumble under the relentless assault of the dark energy tendrils. General Krazax, seeing his forces faltering, took direct control of his flagship. "For the Alliance!" he roared, positioning his ship directly in the path of a massive distortion. The Zorn vessel's shields flared brilliantly as they absorbed the brunt of the cosmic onslaught. Metal screamed and twisted, the ship's hull buckling under forces it was never designed to withstand. In engineering, Mark completed the final recalibration. Power distribution stabilized. He gasped into his comm unit before collapsing to the deck, his body finally succumbing to the radiation exposure. Admiral Thax stood at the helm, his voice cutting through the chaos with crystal clarity. "All ships, brace for impact. Empress Zara, fire when ready." Zara's eyes snapped open, blazing with an inner light, as she achieved perfect synchronization with the weapon's targeting system. Her consciousness expanded, guiding the colossal energies about to be unleashed. The stellar aegis shuddered as it channeled the combined power of the siege ships. A blinding beam of energy erupted from the flagship, piercing through the maelstrom of distorted space-time. It struck the heart of the dark energy vortex with pinpoint accuracy, guided by Zara's enhanced mind. The impact sent a massive shockwave rippling through the system. Ships tumbled through space, tossed about by gravitational eddies. Nearby planets quaked, their atmospheres roiling with turbulence. The stellar aegis itself began to break apart, unable to contain the backlash from the weapon discharge. Hull plates tore away, exposing decks to the vacuum of space. Emergency force fields flickered to life, barely containing the ship's atmosphere. As the energy beam continued to pour into the dark energy vortex, the cosmic anomaly began to destabilize. Its swirling tendrils retracted, the very fabric of space-time warping and twisting around the point of impact. The bridge of the stellar aegis was a scene of controlled chaos. Admiral Thax clung to a console, barking orders to the skeleton crew that remained. Divert all remaining power to life support and structural integrity. Empress Zara, still connected to the biological interface, trembled with the effort of maintaining the weapon's focus. Her crystalline form pulsed with energies beyond mortal comprehension, each flicker threatening to tear her apart at the molecular level. Outside, the Alliance fleet struggled to regroup amidst the cosmic storm. Captain Steele's fighter squadron darted between larger vessels, using their superior maneuverability to guide damaged ships to safety. The hope of the universe hung in the balance as the ancient weapon continued its assault on the dark energy vortex. The stellar aegis, now little more than a floating wreck, poured every last ounce of its power into the beam. Alarms blared throughout the ship, warning of imminent core meltdown. As the vortex continued to destabilize, the true test of the Alliance's dedication was just beginning. The cosmic battle raged on, with the final outcome yet to be determined. The cosmic battle raged on, with the final outcome yet to be decided. As the ancient weapon continued its relentless assault on the dark energy vortex, the shockwave from the discharge began to subside. The stellar aegis, now a floating wreck, drifted aimlessly through space. Its hull was torn and battered, with entire sections exposed to the vacuum. Emergency force fields flickered weakly, struggling to maintain what little atmosphere remained within the ship. On the bridge, Admiral Thax clung to a sparking console, his face illuminated by the flashing red emergency lights. He tapped a series of commands into the system, his fingers moving with practiced precision despite the chaos around him. "Initiate emergency protocol Omega-7, he ordered, his voice steady despite the dire circumstances. "Divert all remaining power to life support and structural integrity." The ship's computer responded with a series of beeps, and the remaining crew members on the bridge felt a subtle shift as power was redirected. The groaning of the ship's stressed superstructure lessened slightly, but alarms continued to blare throughout the vessel. Empress Zara, Her crystalline form, still connected to the biological interface, trembled violently. Her body pulsed with energies beyond mortal comprehension, each flicker threatening to tear her apart at the molecular level. With a final surge of effort, she guided the weapon's energy beam to its target before collapsing onto the command deck. Dr. Alara Voss, who had been monitoring Zara's vital signs, rushed to her side. The scientist's hand shook as she pulled out a specialized medical kit designed for Zara's unique physiology. "Empress, can you hear me?" Alara asked, her voice imbued with concern. She pressed the device against Zara's pulsating form, injecting a stabilizing compound directly into her crystalline matrix. Zara's eyes fluttered open, her gaze unfocused. The weapon? Did it work? She whispered, her voice barely audible over the ship's alarms. Before Alara could respond, a violent tremor shook the stellar aegis. Admiral Thax steadied himself against the bulkhead, his eyes fixed on the main view screen. The dark energy vortex, which had seemed on the verge of collapse, was now undergoing a startling transformation. Instead of dissipating completely, the vortex had collapsed into a dense, swirling mass of exotic matter. This new cosmic object pulsed with an otherworldly glow, emitting strange energy signatures that played havoc with the ship's sensors. "Status report," Thax barked, turning to the few remaining bridge officers. A young ensign, her uniform torn and smudged with soot, responded from her station. "Sir, long-range sensors are detecting massive interference from the object. Our communication systems are being disrupted across all frequencies." As if to underscore her point, the ship's comm system crackled to life, filled with static and distorted voices. Through the noise, a familiar voice emerged, warped and stretched as if passing through layers of time itself. "This is Captain Zalvex of the Cosmic Whisper," the voice said, fading in and out. "We have... warning. Possible futures. Entity evolving." The message cut out abruptly, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Admiral Thax's mind raced, processing the implications of what he had just heard. The Voidborn ship had phased back into normal space-time, bringing with it knowledge of potential futures that apparently involved the collapsed vortex becoming something far more than a simple cosmic phenomenon. Before Thax could issue new orders, another alarm blared through the ship's systems. The ensign's eyes widened as she read the incoming data. "Admiral, we're detecting massive seismic activity on Nevera Prime," she reported, her voice tight with urgency. "The gravitational anomalies have triggered a chain reaction of earthquakes and volcanic eruptions. The colony there's an immediate danger." Thax's mind focused as he weighed his options. The stellar aegis was in no condition to render aid, and the rest of the fleet was scattered and damaged. Yet they couldn't abandon the colonists to their fate. "Send out a general distress call to all Alliance ships," Thax ordered. "Coordinate with any vessels capable of atmospheric entry. We need to evacuate those colonists now." As the ensign relayed his orders, Thax turned his attention back to the transformed vortex. The swirling mass of exotic matter had begun to expand again, this time forming intricate, fractal-like patterns in space. Each pulse of energy from the object created visible distortions in the fabric of space-time, warping the very stars themselves. In the engineering section of the stellar aegis, a team of rescue workers made their way through smoke-filled corridors. They found Mark unconscious on the deck, his body showing clear signs of severe radiation poisoning. With careful movements, they lifted him onto a stretcher and began the treacherous journey to the makeshift medical bay. Dr. Krell, the Quarren scientist, met them at the entrance to the med bay. His reptilian features were set in iron will as he assessed Mark's condition. "Bring him to the isolation chamber," Krell instructed, his clawed hands already preparing a complex array of medical equipment. "We'll need to combine the gene activation serum with our most advanced regenerative therapies." It's our only chance to counteract this level of radiation exposure. As the medical team worked to save Mark's life, the Alliance fleet began to regroup. Captain Erica Steele's voice crackled over the comm systems, coordinating the efforts of her fighter squadron. Alpha Team, focus on the starboard section of the stellar Aegis, she commanded. Beta Team, sweep the debris field for escape pods. Move fast, people. We don't know how long this lull in the action will last. Steele's fighters darted between larger vessels, their searchlights piercing the darkness of space. One by one, they located and retrieved escape pods, ferrying survivors to the nearest functional ships. Back on the bridge of the stellar Aegis, Admiral Thax received a report from the engineering team. Against adversity, they had managed to stabilize the ship's core, averting an imminent meltdown. However, the vessel was still critically damaged, unable to generate sufficient power for its main systems. Thax made a difficult decision. Begin transfer of all critical personnel and data to the Genesis Prime, he ordered, referring to the least damage of the siege ships. We'll use it as our new command center. As the evacuation of the stellar Aegis began, Dr. Alara Voss worked feverishly in the ship's main laboratory. She pored over data from the weapon discharge, her eyes widening as she uncovered a startling revelation. "This can't be right," she muttered, double-checking her findings. But the data was clear. The ancient weapon had not been designed to destroy the cosmic threat, but to transform it. The implications were staggering. As Alara prepared to share her discovery with Admiral Thax, the transformed vortex pulsed once again. This time, the energy wave that washed over the system created pockets of accelerated and slowed time around nearby ships and planets. The Alliance fleet, already battered and strained, now faced a new and unpredictable threat. As they raced to understand the nature of the transformed vortex and its effects on space-time, they remained unaware of the ancient structures beginning to activate on planets throughout the system, structures that held secrets that could change the course of the war, and perhaps the very nature of the universe itself. The Alliance fleet, still reeling from the aftermath of the weapon discharge, found itself facing an unprecedented challenge. The transformed vortex, now a swirling mass of exotic matter, continued to pulse with otherworldly energy. Each wave that washed over the system created pockets of accelerated and slowed time, throwing the already battered ships into further disarray. Admiral Thax, now coordinating efforts from the Genesis Prime, received an urgent transmission from the planetary outposts scattered across the system. His eyes widened as he listened to the reports, each more astonishing than the last. "Sir," a communications officer called out, her voice tight with urgency, "we're receiving multiple distress signals from our outposts. They're reporting structures rising from beneath the planet's surfaces." Thax leaned forward, his brow furrowed. "Structures? What kind of structures?" The officer shook her head, bewildered. "Massive technological complexes, sir, unlike anything we've seen before. They seem to have been activated by the vortex's energy pulses." As the Admiral processed this information, another alert caught his attention. It was from the medical deck. Mark, who had been unconscious and fighting severe radiation poisoning, had regained consciousness. Dr. Krell's experimental treatment, combining the gene activation serum with advanced regenerative therapies, had produced unexpected results. Mark's body, further altered by the radiation exposure, now exhibited enhanced regenerative abilities. Mark's voice came through the comm system, strong and clear despite his recent ordeal. "Admiral, I'm ready to assist. My expertise might help us understand these emerging structures." Thax nodded, grateful for any advantage they could get. "Report to the command center immediately, Mark. We need all hands on deck for this." Meanwhile, on another deck of the Genesis Prime, Empress Zara was slowly recovering from the immense strain of interfacing with the ancient weapon. Dr. Alara Voss hovered nearby, monitoring her vital signs with a mix of scientific curiosity and genuine concern. Zara's eyes snapped open, her gaze intense and focused. "The patterns," she whispered, her voice hoarse. "I can see patterns in the vortex's emissions." Dr. Voss leaned in, intrigued. "What kind of patterns, Empress?" "Complex, rhythmic, like a language," Zara replied, struggling to articulate what she was perceiving. "We need to decode them. They might be the key to controlling this entity." As Zara and Dr. Voss began their work on deciphering the vortex's enigmatic signals, the Alliance fleet initiated a coordinated effort to secure the activated ancient structures on various planets. Captain Erica Steele, her fighters still bearing scorch marks from the recent battle, led a team towards the largest of these complexes. The planet, previously uninhabited and unremarkable, had been hastily dubbed Nexus Prime by the exploration team. As Steele's ships approached the planet's atmosphere, they encountered a phenomenon that defied their understanding of physics. Localized time dilation enveloped their vessels, causing them to experience the journey in a matter of minutes, while hours passed for the rest of the fleet. Steele's voice crackled over the comm as her team touched down on the planet's surface. "Command, this is Steele. You're not going to believe this, but according to our chronometers, we've arrived several hours before we departed." Before Thax could respond, Steele continued, her voice filled with awe. "The structure. It's massive, a network of interconnected machines, pulsing with energy. It's in sync with the vortex, sir." As Steele's team cautiously approached the central control panel of the complex, Mark arrived at the Genesis Prime's command center. His eyes quickly scanned the data streaming in from Nexus Prime. "Admiral," he said, his voice urgent, "those energy signatures. They're similar to the weapon we used against the vortex. I think these structures and the vortex are connected somehow." Just then, Captain Steele's voice came through again. "Sir, we've activated something. There's a holographic message. It's from the creators of these structures." The message, fragmented and distorted, began to play throughout the command center. An alien voice, filled with urgency and wisdom accumulated over eons, spoke of a cyclical cosmic threat and a plan to harness its power for the benefit of all life in the galaxy. As the Alliance grappled with this revelation, a new signal caught their attention. A damaged Zorn ship, a survivor of the initial battle, had detected a faint energy signature matching General Krozax's personal beacon. The source, the transformed vortex itself. Admiral Thax's mind raced with the implications. Could the general, thought lost in the battle, have been transported to another location or time by the vortex's space-time distortions? Before he could fully process this possibility, another alert demanded his attention. The void-born ship Cosmic Whisper had finally managed to dock with the Genesis Prime. Its crew, led by Captain Zalvex, bore visible signs of their temporal ordeal. Zalvex, his features aged beyond his years, stumbled onto the bridge of Genesis Prime. His eyes, filled with the weight of countless possible futures, locked onto Admiral Thax. "Admiral," he said, his voice raspy and urgent, "what we've seen, the futures we've glimpsed, the entity is evolving, and it's tied to a plan that spans galaxies and eons." As Zalvex began to share the crucial information gathered during their phase-shifted state, the transformed vortex pulsed once more. This time, the energy wave that washed over the system was more powerful than any before. Several nearby planets were suddenly engulfed by the expanding vortex. But instead of destruction, the Alliance watched in awe as these worlds were encased in shimmering energy fields. Sensors indicated rapid changes in atmospheric composition and planetary conditions. Mark, his enhanced mind racing to process the incoming data, turned to Admiral Thax with a look of astonishment. "Sir," he said, his voice filled with wonder and a hint of fear, "I don't think the vortex is destroying those planets. I think it's terraforming them." As the Alliance struggled to comprehend the scale of the transformation unfolding before them, long-range sensors detected multiple incoming signals from deep space. Unknown entities, drawn by the power of the vortex and the activated structures, were rapidly approaching from all directions. Admiral Thax, faced with the monumental task of unraveling the mysteries of an ancient galactic network while preparing for potential first contact, set his jaw with dedication. The fate of countless worlds hung in the balance, and the true nature of their cosmic challenge was only beginning to reveal itself. The unknown entities approaching from deep space added another layer of complexity to an already chaotic situation. Admiral Thax opened his mouth to issue new orders when a blinding flash erupted across the view screen, engulfing the entire system. The transformed vortex contracted violently before expanding in a massive surge of energy. The pulse swept through the fleet, overloading systems and plunging the Alliance into darkness. Thax gripped his command chair as the Genesis Prime shuddered under the assault. "Status report," he barked as soon as the initial shock subsided. Silence greeted his command. The bridge remained eerily quiet, devoid of the usual chatter of communications and sensor readings. Thax's stomach tightened as he realized the full extent of their predicament. Minutes stretched into what felt like hours before systems slowly flickered back to life. The communications officer's console lit up first, followed by a cascade of incoming transmissions. "Sir," she called out, her voice strained, "we're receiving multiple urgent reports from the planetary outposts." Thax leaned forward, bracing himself for more bad news. "Go ahead." The pulse. It's accelerated the activation of the ancient structures. They're fully emerging on multiple worlds. Before Thax could process this information, Captain Steele's voice crackled through the comm system, tinged with awe and urgency. "Admiral, you need to see this. The structure on Nexus Prime. It's forming massive energy conduits. They're connecting directly to the vortex." Thax's mind raced, trying to piece together the implications of these rapid developments. He turned to see Mark entering the bridge, his face a mask of concentration. "Sir," Mark reported, his enhanced mind clearly processing information at an accelerated rate, "I've been analyzing the data from the terraforming process. The pulse has triggered a transformation of several uninhabited planets in the system. Barren worlds are developing atmospheres, oceans, even primitive ecosystems. It's happening in a matter of hours." As if on cue, the main view screen flickered to life, displaying a series of planets undergoing rapid changes. Swirling clouds formed over once desolate landscapes, while vast bodies of water appeared where only dust and rock had existed before. A commotion from the far side of the bridge drew Thax's attention. Empress Zara stumbled in, supported by Dr. Ilara Voss. The Empress's eyes were wide, almost feverish with intensity. "The patterns," Zara gasped, her voice stronger than it had been since her ordeal with the ancient weapon. "I can see them now. The vortex. It's transmitting information." Dr. Voss guided Zara to a nearby console, where they immediately began working to decipher the complex energy emissions emanating from the transformed vortex. Thax had barely begun to process these revelations when another alert sounded. The tactical officer's voice cut through the chaos. "Admiral, the unknown signals we detected earlier. They're here." The view screen shifted to show multiple ships of unfamiliar design materializing near the outer planets. Their sleek, organic forms spoke of technology far beyond the Alliance's capabilities. "Defensive positions," Thax ordered, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "Initiate first contact protocols, but be prepared for anything." As the Alliance fleet moved to protect the inner planets, one of the unknown ships broke formation, heading directly for Nexus Prime. Thax opened a channel to Captain Steele's team on the planet's surface. "Steele, be advised. You have company incoming." "Acknowledged, sir," Steele replied, her voice tense. "We're observing from our position near the central structure." Thax and his command staff watched in stunned silence as the alien ship approached Nexus Prime. It slowed as it neared the planet, coming to a stop directly above the ancient structure. "Admiral," Steele's voice came through, filled with a mix of awe and apprehension. "The ship is interfacing with the structure. I've never seen anything like this." Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted from the planet's surface, momentarily overwhelming the view screen. When the image cleared, Thax leaned forward, his eyes widening at the sight before him. The ancient structure on Nexus Prime had reconfigured itself, revealing a massive hangar bay. From within its depths, a fleet of ships emerged, their design a perfect match to the unknown vessels that had just arrived. "By the stars," Thax muttered, the implications hitting him like a physical blow. These ships had been waiting, dormant for millennia, for this moment. As the Alliance grappled with this new development, Dr. Krell's voice came over the comm system. "Admiral, I've made a breakthrough with the gene activation process. The serum we used on Empress Zara and Mark. It's only the beginning. I believe it's part of a more comprehensive transformation, one that could allow direct interface with the Galactic network and the vortex itself." Thax's mind reeled at the possibilities this presented. Before he could fully contemplate the implications, another alert sounded. "Sir," the sensor officer called out, "we're detecting a new anomaly within the vortex. It appears to be a stable wormhole." As if in response to this discovery, Empress Zara's voice rang out across the bridge. "Admiral, we've decoded part of the transmission. It contains coordinates to other seed ships and ancient structures across the galaxy." Thax stood, his decision made. The Alliance stood on the brink of a new era, faced with challenges and opportunities beyond anything they had ever imagined. With a deep breath, he began issuing orders. "Prepare an expedition team. We're going through that wormhole." "Wormhole," Admiral Thax commanded, his voice carrying the weight of their monumental decision. The bridge erupted into a flurry of activity as preparations began. Mark and Captain Erica Steele were quickly selected to lead the expedition team. Within hours, they had assembled a crew of the Alliance's most capable scientists, engineers, and explorers. The modified siege ship hummed with energy as it approached the stable wormhole. Its sleek design, a fusion of Alliance and ancient technology, gleamed under the light of the transformed vortex. Mark stood at the helm, his enhanced mind processing the myriad calculations necessary for their journey. "Phase shift generators online," Steele reported, her fingers dancing across the control panel. "Time dilation countermeasures active." Mark nodded, his eyes fixed on the swirling vortex before them. "All systems go. Initiating wormhole entry in 3, 2, 1. The ship surged forward, enveloped by a kaleidoscope of light and energy. The crew felt a moment of disorientation as space-time warped around them. Then, in an instant, they emerged into a sea of unfamiliar stars. "Navigation report," Steele called out, her voice steady despite the awe-inspiring view before them. "We're approximately 50,000 light-years from our point of origin," the navigator responded, his voice tinged with disbelief. "Multiple star systems detected within range." Mark's enhanced senses were already at work, scanning their surroundings. "Captain, I'm detecting energy signatures similar to the structures we encountered on Nexus Prime. There, everywhere." The view screen shifted, displaying a vast network of energy conduits spanning the visible star systems. The structures pulsed with a rhythmic energy, forming an intricate web that seemed to connect countless worlds. "Begin planetary scans," Steele ordered, her curiosity piqued by the alien landscape before them. As the data poured in, the expedition team watched in amazement. Planet after planet revealed signs of terraforming, each one uniquely adapted to support diverse ecosystems. Barren rocks had been transformed into lush, habitable worlds teeming with life. Back in their home system, Admiral Thax faced a challenge of his own. The unknown ships had taken up positions around the outer planets, their intentions still unclear. Thax took a deep breath, steeling himself for what could be the most important diplomatic encounter in the history of their species. "Open a channel," he commanded. The view screen flickered to life, revealing a being unlike any Thax had ever seen. Its form was fluid, shimmering with an inner light that seemed to pulse in time with the energy of the vortex. "Greetings," the being spoke, its voice resonating with an otherworldly harmony. "We are the Guardians, overseers of the Great Renewal." Thax straightened, his voice firm but respectful. "I am Admiral Thax of the Alliance. We seek to understand the nature of these events and your role in them." The Guardian's form rippled, as if pleased by the question. "The events you have witnessed are the culmination of eons of planning. The Ancient Ones foresaw a time when the galaxy would need renewal, a rebirth of life and possibility. We are here to guide this process and ensure its successful completion." As the Guardian spoke, Empress Zara worked feverishly at her console, her enhanced mind decoding the complex transmissions emanating from the vortex. Suddenly, her eyes widened. "Admiral," she called out, her voice filled with excitement. "I've done it. I've decoded the full map of the Galactic network and the instructions for its activation." Dr. Alara Voss immediately began analyzing the data, her mind racing with the potential applications of this newfound knowledge. Meanwhile, in the distant star system, Mark's team approached one of the ancient structures. Its massive form loomed before them, pulsing with energy. As they drew near, the structure's defenses activated, throwing up a barrier of pure energy that repelled their approach. Mark's brow furrowed in concentration as he interfaced with the siege ship systems. Drawing on his enhanced abilities and understanding of the ancient technology, he began to weave a complex algorithm, searching for a way to bypass the structure's defenses. "Captain," he called out to Steele, his fingers flying across the control panel, "I think I can create a harmonic resonance that will allow us to penetrate the barrier. But it's going to take time." Steele nodded, her eyes scanning the surrounding space for any potential threats. "Do what you need to do, Mark. We'll hold position and keep watch." As Mark worked, the ship's sensors picked up a faint, familiar energy signature. Steele's eyes narrowed as she studied the readings. "Mark," she said, her voice low and urgent, "are you seeing this? That signature. It's similar to General Krozax's beacon." Mark paused in his work, his enhanced mind quickly processing the new information. "You're right, but the signal. It's distorted, as if it's coming from multiple points in time simultaneously." Their eyes met, a shared understanding passing between them. Without a word, Steele altered their course, guiding the ship towards the source of the mysterious signal. As they approached, the fabric of space-time seemed to warp and twist around them. "We're entering some kind of temporal anomaly," Mark reported, his voice tense. "Time flow is becoming erratic." The ship pushed forward, its phase shift technology straining against the temporal distortions. Suddenly, the view screen cleared, revealing a startling sight. There, suspended in a pocket of warped space-time, was General Krozax's ship. "Open a channel," Steele commanded, her heart racing. The screen flickered to life, revealing the face of General Krozax. He looked exactly as he had the day he disappeared, his expression one of confusion and relief. "Captain Steele," he said, his voice filled with disbelief. "We've been trapped here for hours. How did you find us so quickly?" Steele and Mark exchanged glances, the full weight of the situation hitting them. While months had passed for the rest of the galaxy, Krozax and his crew had experienced only a fraction of that time. As they prepared to rescue the general and his crew, Mark's mind raced with the implications of their discovery. The temporal anomalies, the ancient structures, the terraformed worlds, all pieces of a cosmic puzzle that was only beginning to take shape. The expedition team now faced a daunting task: to unravel the mysteries of this vast galactic network while navigating the complexities of time itself. And back in their home system, Admiral Thax and the Alliance stood on the brink of a new era, one that promised to reshape the very fabric of their existence. The journey through the wormhole had been just the beginning. The true challenge and the true adventure lay ahead. The true challenge and the true adventure lay just beyond the shimmering event horizon of the wormhole. As their ship emerged from the swirling vortex, Mark and Captain Steele were momentarily blinded by an explosion of light and color. When their vision cleared, they gasped in unison at the sight before them. The once familiar solar system had undergone a transformation of cosmic proportions. The vortex had expanded dramatically, now encompassing nearly half the system in its ethereal embrace. Planets floated serenely within the swirling energies, their surfaces rapidly morphing into verdant, life-supporting worlds. "My God," Steele breathed, her eyes wide with wonder. "What's happening to them?" Mark's enhanced mind raced to process the data flooding their sensors. "It's not just terraforming," he said, his voice filled with awe. "The planets are being completely reshaped at a molecular level. It's as if the entire system is being prepared for something." Without hesitation, Steele opened a channel to Admiral Thax and the newly formed Galactic Council. "Admiral, you need to see this," she said, transmitting their findings. Back on the command ship, Thax and the council members watched in stunned silence as the data streamed in. Dr. Alara Voss, her face pale with shock, turned to the Admiral. "Sir, these readings, they're off the charts. The network isn't just reshaping our system. It's preparing it for the arrival of new life forms we can't even begin to comprehend." As the implications of this revelation rippled through the council chamber, Empress Zara suddenly stiffened, her eyes glazing over. The genetic enhancements had pushed her cognitive abilities to their peak, and now she found herself on the cusp of a startling epiphany. "The transmissions," she whispered, her voice distant. "They're not just data. They're consciousness, the collective minds of the ancient civilization waiting to be reborn." Dr. Krell, who had been monitoring Zara's vital signs, looked up sharply. "Empress, what are you suggesting?" Zara's eyes refocused, burning with newfound purpose. "We need to interface directly with the vortex," she declared. "Using your advanced gene activation serum, I can merge my consciousness with the network. It's the only way to stabilize it and prevent chaos across the galaxy." The council erupted in protests, but Zara silenced them with a raised hand. "This is not up for debate. Prepare the interface immediately." As the preparations began, the Guardians materialized on the bridge, their ethereal forms pulsing with energy. "The final piece of the ancient plan is ready to be revealed," they intoned in unison. "The galactic network is not merely for existing species. It is designed to foster the creation of a new, hybrid species, one that combines the best traits of all sentient beings." Before anyone could fully process this revelation, alarms blared across the Alliance fleet. The vortex's expansion had suddenly accelerated, threatening to engulf the entire system within hours. "All ships, initiate emergency evacuation protocols." Thax barked, his voice strained but steady. As the fleet scrambled to escape, it quickly became apparent that not all ships would make it in time. Mark's voice cut through the chaos on the comms. "Admiral, I have a proposal," he said, his tone grim but determined. "If we combine the power of the entire fleet, we might be able to create a stabilizing field around the vortex. It's risky, but it's our only chance to save those who can't escape." Thax hesitated for only a moment before giving the order. "All ships, form up around the vortex perimeter. Prepare to channel all available power on my mark." As the Alliance vessels moved into position, forming a massive energy web around the expanding vortex, Empress Zara began her interface. her body arched in the containment field as her consciousness merged with the ancient civilization's collective mind. The next few moments were a blur of blinding light and reality-bending energy. The vortex's expansion halted, then began to contract. Planets that had been scattered across the galaxy snapped back into place, their new ecosystems intact. The Alliance fleet, rather than being destroyed, found itself integrated into the ancient structures, forming a hybrid technology beyond anything they had ever imagined. As the cosmic dust settled, the true scope of the transformation became clear. The entire galaxy had been reshaped into an interconnected network of habitable worlds, linked by stable wormholes and powered by the now-controlled vortex at its center. Empress Zara, her physical form now a shimmering construct of pure energy, emerged as a guide for this new galactic order. The ancient civilization hasn't been reborn, she explained, her voice resonating with newfound power and wisdom. Instead, it has merged with us, creating a new collective consciousness that respects and preserves individual identities. The Galactic Council, now expanded to include representatives from newly discovered species across the network, convened for the first time. Admiral Thax, Mark, Captain Steele, and all those who had played crucial roles in the transformation were honored as the founders of this new era. As the council meeting drew to a close, Dr. Alara Voss stepped forward, her eyes shining with excitement. "I have one final announcement," she said, her voice trembling slightly. "Our research into the gene activation process, combined with the energies of the transformed vortex, has led to a groundbreaking discovery. The barriers between different alien races have been broken down at a genetic level, allowing for true unity among all sentient beings." The council chambers erupted in joyous celebration as the implications of this news sank in. The once divisive issue of interspecies relationships, which had caused so much conflict in the past, was now the very thing that would propel their civilization into a bright future. As the festivities continued around them, Mark and Captain Steele found themselves standing at a viewport, gazing out at the transformed galaxy. The shimmering network of worlds, connected by streams of energy and possibility, stretched out before them. "It's beautiful," Steele murmured, her voice filled with wonder. Mark nodded, a smile playing at the corners of his mouth. "And it's just the beginning," he replied, his enhanced senses already picking up faint signals from distant, unexplored regions of the network. As they watched, a new star blazed to life in a nearby system, its birth heralding the dawn of a new cosmic age. The adventure that had begun with a mysterious signal and an ancient artifact had transformed into something far greater, a galactic rebirth that promised endless possibilities for exploration, discovery, and unity. The galaxy, once vast and unknowable, now pulsed with shared consciousness and purpose. And somewhere, in the depths of this reborn cosmos, new life was stirring, ready to join the grand tapestry of existence that stretched across the stars.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.